Following the win over the Green Bay Packers, Matt. But this is an exciting team. They're fun to watch. What makes this team so special?
I think if you listen to our pregame show, they hit it right on the head. I think they're better than they've been. And I think where they're better is in their offensive line. I think they've opened up holes. They've given protection. They've taken the pressure off their quarterback, Randall Cunningham, and they've enabled the second reason, their wide receivers, in particular, Randy Moss, to make big plays down the field. And I think when you look at that aspect of football, it really has a Mark McGuire-ish feel about it. I mean, you show up looking for the home run, and you show up looking for the big play.
And this is the first time these fans have had a chance to salute the Vikings since that win at Green Bay. Meanwhile, the Redskins will start Gus Frerotte at quarterback, has not started since week 1. They're off to their worst start in 37 years. Realistically, what kind of a chance do they have against the Vikes today?
I think, realistically, a good chance if they eliminate the big plays, what we were just talking about with Minnesota, and if they can generate consistency with their offense. And that has to come from their offensive line and their quarterback. And I don't mean bad consistency, good consistency.
So the Redskins and the Vikings at both ends of the spectrum, and the kickoff coming up in just a moment. Welcome back to the Metrodome, and an enthusiastic crowd on hand. There is Dennis Green, who, if he wins today, will be his 6th in a row, which would tie his record as a head coach established last year. Norv Turner just wants to win one. That is his record in his 5th year. The Vikings have won the toss, and they'll receive. Carrie Blanchard will kick off for the Redskins. Back deep for the Vikings is David Palmer and Mo Williams. And we're underway on a loud crowd here at the Metrodome, and David Palmer, the multifaceted threat, returning for the Vikings. And Palmer is stopped short of the 25-yard line. The potent and exciting offense for the Minnesota Vikings, and the quarterback, Randall Cunningham, making his 4th start, leading the NFL in passing rating, yet to throw an interception. The nuts and bolts of this Minnesota offense is their offensive line. Randall McDaniel, the veteran, Stussy and Stringer are the bookends. Robert Smith having an outstanding year. Carter and Reed, the wide receivers, and you'll be seeing a lot of Randy Moss as well. In fact, Moss is in the lineup, covered by Darrell Green on 1st down from the 25. Cunningham going to Moss, and it's tipped at the line, and it was Kennard Lang who got a hand on it. Defensively for the Redskins, and they have faltered particularly against the run. The ends, Kinney and Lang, Stubblefield and Wilkinson. And it's Smith, Patton, and Ken Harvey, the linebackers. And in the secondary, once again, Leamon Evans starts at strong safety. The strength there, the cornerbacks, Darrell Green and Chris Dishman, who is still struggling this season. 2nd down and 10.
And you're still getting Darrell Green right down here on Randy Moss in the bottom of your picture.
And here it's Robert Smith going wide, and Leamon Evans will ride him out of bounds, and that will bring up 3rd and long for the Vikings.
So when you look at this Minnesota Viking offense, there's so many ways to go, but I think you really have to start with Randall Cunningham. If you listen to our pregame guys, Terry, Howie, and Chris, they all said the same thing about Randall Cunningham. A, he's better, and B, the reason for it universally has been the play of the offensive line. Now, once you get past that, I think there's a maturity in Randall Cunningham that I haven't seen. And I think that is as big a factor as anything.
He's a much more calm person now. 3rd and 10. David Palmer has come in as a 3rd down back. Still with 3 wide receivers. Good protection for Cunningham, and his pass to Glover, the tight end, is broken up downfield. And that was Sean Barber, the rookie linebacker from Richmond, who made the defensive play. So it's 4th down, and the Vikings will kick.
And that's the recipe right there. You ask at the start, Dick, what do the Washington Redskins have to do to win? It's right there. See, they have to be able to compete on all 3 downs. If they can create a 3rd and long and make them throw underneath, they'll win.
Brian Mitchell, 7th in the NFL in punt returns, ready to receive the kick by Mitch Berger. Here is Mitchell going outside. 1 missed tackle. Mitchell still on his feet and gets a good, tough return to his own 43-yard line. That was a 9-yard return. So Gus Frerotte who's back in the starting lineup after Trent Green could not win a game. That is Perot's 5-year record as a quarterback for the Redskins. Joe Patton back from injury at left guard, replacing Trey Johnson, who was out for a while. And on offense, Terry Allen, the former Viking who played 5 years here. Michael Westbrook having a big year at wide receiver.
Hey, take a look now. Johnny Randall is lined up inside, not outside where he usually is. He's on the inside, so it's pick your poison for John Randall.
2 tight ends on first down from the 43, going deep for Westbrook.
Oh, I love it.
And Michael Westbrook can come up in a fine play by Jimmy Hitchcock as he took the outside route, would not let Westbrook get near the ball.
Hey, I love this. This is, you know, we talked about that Mark McGuire thing for the Minnesota Vikings and pushing the ball down the field. Well, the Washington Redskins says, guess what? We can do the same thing. And they automatically attack one of the weaknesses of the Minnesota defense, and that has been the play of their corners. So you put it in their mind right away. Guess what? We're coming at you early.
There's a message by Norv Turner. 2nd down and 10. In motion is Stephen Davis, and the handoff is to Terry Allen. He breaks 1 tackle, and Allen gets it out to the 46. It'll be 3rd down and about 6. Steve Bursich making the tackle defensively, and Matt Millen hit on it. We'll be watching where John Randall lines up all afternoon. Bursich replacing Dwayne Rudd at linebacker. Bursich played 3 quarters against Green Bay, and there is that secondary that Matt talked about. That'll bring up 3rd and 7.
Dick, not only are we going to keep our eyes on where John Randall, it's a 3rd down, and it's the 3rd position John Randall's been in.
Perot gets pressure, and down he goes. Torian Gray, who is questionable with an injury, came in the secondary, and the blitz pays off in a loss of 7.
The blitz pays off because he looked up top right away, and a nice job by Corey Fuller. See, Corey Fuller, he jumped it. See right there, he's looking right away. He wanted to go outside to Westbrook, but Fuller read the same thing and jumped it immediately, took it away, and provided for the sack.
That is the 29th sack given up by the Redskins, and they are on mark to establish a franchise high. Matt Turk punting to David Palmer, and Palmer calls for the fair catch, and it hits a Viking, and the Redskins get the ball inside the 5. It bounced off Randy Moss, and the Redskins recover.
Yeah, and that's one of those inadvertent things. It hit Randy Moss in the rear end. He wasn't aware of what was going on, but a nice job by Darryl Pounds, who picked it up, and it's 1st and goal. Remember, it's a muff. It's not a fumble because there was never any possession. See, the ball hits, bing, hits him in the keister, flops backwards, and then Pounds comes down and recovers. Very alert. And as soon as he picks it up, it stays right there. That's it. In fact, Pounds didn't even know it. Pounds was trying to stay out of the end zone so they could down it.
Both of them had their backs to the ball when it hit, and that's the kind of break the Redskins had sorely wished for all season. 1st and goal at the 2. Terry Allen is the lone running back. And here is Allen with the carry, and he dives in for the touchdown. So a break for the Redskins.
Look at Terry Allen. You think he's not fired up to be back here in Minnesota?
He left here in 1994 after gaining 1,000 yards in 2 seasons for the Vikings. Not pleased with it, and you know he was revved up coming back in his first game at the Metrodome since leaving here.
The worst thing you can ever do to a team with no wins is encourage them. And now you've taken that underdog and you've given him a little shot of life. And that life can turn into a monster.
And it also silences this throng as Carrie Blanchard's extra point is good. And so the turnover resulting in a Terry Allen touchdown. And the Redskins, huge underdogs, lead the Vikings 7-0. There is Terry Allen.
There's a happy Terry Allen. And that's letting out all that stuff from Minnesota. Why they let me go with my knees. Guess what? I'm back.
And also trying to make amends from a fumble last week against the Eagles as David Palmer returns the kickoff for the 2nd time in the game. Palmer still a whirling dervish as he fires finally is brought down at the 32-yard line by Jamel Williams.
You know, Dick, there's something to be said for awareness in football. And it's just not only being in the right place and hustle and getting there, you have to play with your eyes as well as anything. And the ball just pops up into his hands, and because of the awareness and being there, you make the play. Now, Chris Thomas knew it right away. He pointed because he saw and felt the ball pop back, and then Pounds made the recovery.
Only the 4th takeaway by the Redskins this year. Fewest in the league. Now the Vikings trailing 1-0, starting from their 32. A stunt coming in and a screen pass out to Robert Smith. Ken Harvey with a quick bring down in the open field, preventing at least 5 more yards.
Do you know how hard that is in football? One of the hardest plays in all of football is a one-on-one tackle with the speed back out in the flat. That's called space. And what Harvey did was perfect, because I want you to watch his angle. See, by his angle, he took away the inside, and he made Robert Smith go one way. And when you eliminate 2 ways and give yourself 1 way, you have a chance. Well played.
Randy Moss is lined up to the bottom of your picture, and he is defended by Darrell Green. 2nd down and 6. And a play fake by Cunningham, and he's going to the sideline. Open is Chris Carter. And Carter, making one of his patented catches, bowling backwards, goes out of bounds at a gain of 20 into Redskin territory.
You know, that time they used Chris Carter's speed, Randy Moss's speed to open for Chris Carter. Because what they did is they took Randy Moss and cleared the whole area. And Darrell Green had to clear the whole thing, and then Carter comes back out inside. That's a tough route.
And now Chris Carter tied Anthony Carter with a catch in his 105th consecutive game. And the Vikings, they're explosive offensively with a 1st down on the Redskin 44. Robert Smith gets tackled after a gain of about 6 by Leamon Evans, the strong safety.
And they attacked right inside. Now, Robert Smith really is a guy who likes to get to the outside. And you'd think that in a game like this, where the defensive ends of Washington aren't as strong, is that they try to stay that way. But that being said, you still have to body punch and go inside. And against the Washington Redskin defense, that's supposed to be their strength.
Randy Moss comes out. Charles Evans is in as fullback in the eye. 2nd down and 6. Cunningham giving ground. The screen low pass to Evans, and he's tackled by Derek Smith.
Another good play by Derek Smith. That's 2 backers played extremely well. When you have a team like Minnesota and they're throwing and you want to get to the ball and you start playing a little bit reckless, well, then you soften that with some screens. And Derek Smith read it perfectly, and the key to a screen pass, you've got to get on your coverage right away.
It'll be 3rd and short. Randy Moss is back in along with Leroy Horde and David Palmer. A lot of speed in the lineup now for Minnesota.
Palmer's in there for a reason. When they put him there, if they get lined up on the linebacker, big mismatch.
3rd down and 2. Cunningham looking to throw again, going up the middle, and the pass is caught by Palmer. And you called it. David Palmer gets down to the 5-yard line, and he was matched up against the linebacker and beats him to the tune of 33 yards.
Well, he caught him also in that zone. And so you take David Palmer, 22, right down here, and that's a guy who's got speed and he's got some make you miss. See, now they're playing the zone, but now we talked about awareness with David, with Smith, and also Patton inside. You have to know what 22's in the game for a reason. I mean, that's got to have a little extra side of it in your mind. 22 comes in, guess what? Ball's going to him.
So many threats on this Minnesota team. They have scored on their last 23 possessions in the red zone. They start from the 4. And the handoff to Leroy Horde, and he is brought down at about the 1. Horde is the power back on this team, so this Viking offense can go in several dimensions.
You know, so many facets of this game and speed of the receivers you talk about, but Chris Carter, you know why he impresses me? 2 reasons. Number 1, he plays the game with his eyes as much as his physical ability, but the physical ability in the blocking game, he turns into Super Chris. He gets an S in his chest, and he will try to beat you up. I love that.
And does succeed most of the time. 2nd and goal at the 1. And there is the fade pass to Carter. Touchdown, Vikings. And a flag is down. Darrell Green defending, and a penalty marker is down.
Well, Chris Carter We talked about that physical part. That could be a push-off. And it is.
Dick Hantak, our referee, and that will nullify a Viking touchdown as Carter pleads his case.
Number 80, 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. Second down.
Watch Darrell Green. He understands the position, so he jumps to the inside. He gives them one way to go. And right at the end, yeah, they call it. I don't like the call. I mean, in my view, as an official, you have to let the guys play. I mean, you have to. That's what the game's about.
A pretty good duel, though, with Darrell Green against Chris Carter, two future Hall of Famers.
Darrell Green, I love the guy. I think the world of it. And look, guess what? They're going to have another whirl at it right down here.
Second and goal, back to the 11 following the penalty. And here's the pass up the middle. Glover, the tight end, Andrew Glover. And no flags this time, and the Vikings get their touchdown.
Credit Randall Cunningham. He knew where to go right away. Nice job by Andrew Glover of using his body as a shield between the defender and Randall Cunningham. You know, watch him come off right here. See, now he gets his body between the defender. Bang, right there. Cunningham saw it quick. Ball came out, and it was too easy.
Third touchdown reception of the season by the former Raider. And Gary Anderson with the extra point ties the game, and that didn't take all that long as Randall Cunningham splits the middle for his 11th touchdown pass of the year. We're tied at 7. The score is 7-7, nearly midway through this first quarter. Mitch Berger kicking off, and it's a good one into the end zone, and it's down by Brian Mitchell, and the Redskins will start from the 20-yard line. So the crowd back in this game after the Minnesota score. We'll be right back.
Chris Carter working with Randy Moss and Hubbard Alexander, and I think that's been one of the best things that's happened to Randy Moss. It's been right here. See this guy? That's Chris Carter, because he's confident enough in himself that he will help anybody.
Well, he told us yesterday that Randy Moss is going to extend my career in the presence of this outstanding rookie. First down for the Redskins on the 20-yard line. Steven Alexander is the tight end in the ballgame, and the handoff is to Terry Allen. And Allen picks up 8 yards on first down. He scored the Redskin touchdown off the turnover early.
Nice job of that left side of blocking, and number one, being aware of John Randall. So Randall's going to try to come hard up the field. So Badger does a good job of just getting his hands on him. And then what you try to do is you create the flow to go one way, and Terry Allen does as good a job as any back in the league of running with his eyes and coming back underneath.
Big test for the Redskin offensive line against John Randall and company in a mix-up. And Farrar comes out of the pocket and is tackled. Fumble out of the zone. It's picked up by Orlando.
Well, he's saying that
it's blown down at the 29-yard line. So it is blown dead, but it could have been utter disaster for the Redskins, but Farrar held on to the ball.
Actually, had Farrar realized he was a running back at that point, he would have been able to get the first down, but right at the last second, he kind of turned into a little bit of a kind of wimp. Yeah, watch this. Right there, see, if he turns this thing up, he'd have been okay. That's a fumble. That's a bad call. Right there, lower your shoulder, get up inside. That's not even close. That's a blown call by the official.
Ball came out before he was down. Orlando Thomas doing a good job of stripping the ball away from Farrar, but the Redskins will keep possession, and it'll be third and less than 1.
It's pretty interesting by Jimmy Hitchcock to try to keep it alive and throw it back in.
And the pitch is to Terry Allen, and he's not going to make it. He's shy. And he might have lost a couple of feet on that one, and it was Ed McDaniel, the converted outside linebacker, who has come back in his second year from knee injury, who makes the big play.
Yeah, you're going to see McDaniel 58, but I want you to watch Jimmy Hitchcock right at the top of your screen. Here's the key to the play, right there. Hitchcock turns it back inside. McDaniel comes clean. There's nobody to him. He's unaccounted for. He makes the play, but it never happens unless Hitchcock turns it inside.
So it was 2nd and 2, and the Redskins fail to capitalize and get the first down. So Matt Turk with his kick, and David Palmer moving over toward the sideline. On the 14-yard line on the return, is finally tackled at the 27-yard line. 6:25 remaining in the first quarter. The Redskins and the Vikings tied 7-7. 7 and 7, and the Vikings on their own 27-yard line. 3 wide receivers. Darrell Pounds is the nickel cornerback, but Darrell Green is shadowing Randy Moss. This is a handoff to Robert Smith, and Marcus Patton doesn't let him go anywhere, maybe a yard.
I want you to watch Darrell Pounds working on tape, and watch the end of this play. Look who they bring on in here. Yeah, that's Randy Moss, the rookie. What does that tell you? That tells you that he's still a rookie. That he's not the premier guy that everybody thinks he is. Yes, he is. He has those skills, but they're going to make him earn his stripes, and they're putting him back there in special teams. I like that. I think that's good.
One of the more personable rookies I think we've ever met talking with him.
I thought he was great.
2nd down and 8 from the 29. Pressure coming in on Cunningham. Pumps once. Can't find a receiver. And Randall Cunningham, who used to take off at will, is chased out of bounds by Nduke Kalu after a gain of 6.
Hey, but this is a positive for the Washington Redskins because you eliminate big play down the field like we talked about because of the coverage. Nice job. They come with the blitz, and they play their zone. Now, they're not going to make that throw because it's undercut by Marcus Patton. No place to throw. You force the run. 3rd and short.
3rd and 2. Chris Disman is defending Jake Reed. And here is David Palmer, and he'll get the 1st down. Tremendous speed, and a flag is down back at the 35-yard line.
All of you viewers out there, make a little mental note right now. Anytime it's going to be a hold against Washington, which again will set up that Minnesota, I'm sorry. Here's the mental note. Anytime you see 22 on the field, there's a reason for it.
Holding. Offense number 80. 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. 3rd down.
Chris Carter holding on the play.
Hey, watch him in the slot. He's going to be working on Darrell Pounds. Remember I talked to you about him being physical, and he's not afraid to get physical. And there's the hold. It's right in his chest.
David Palmer comes out of the game. Leroy Horde is in at running back. 3rd down and 8. Winding down to 5 minutes remaining in the 1st. Cunningham stepping up again, looking for a receiver. He's got Palmer. And Chris Carter is tackled finally by Darrell Pounds after a gain of 35 yards again into Redskin territory.
Well, if you listen to Terry Bradshaw on the pregame, he was talking about the offensive line. You can see a nice job of maintaining the pocket, which allows them to step up. Now, here's your mistake. You see Pounds turned around and looked at the quarterback. Anybody who's playing the game, Little League, high school, college, when you're in man-to-man, watch the man, not the quarterback. You're defending the man.
Makes sense. 1st down on the 35 of the Redskins. And there is Randall Cunningham going deep for Randy Moss. And it's tipped away, and a flag is down. It was Darrell Green, and he may be called for pass interference.
Yep, and you're right, and he is. Interesting watching Darrell Green on Randy Moss. See what he's trying to do. I like it. It was smart. So many times.
In the end zone. By rule, the ball is placed on the 1-yard line. 1st down.
Watch Darrell Green. See, he's hanging to the outside. That means any ball now he looks back into. And that's a good call. And Darrell went up over the top. But you could see him. I mean, Darrell Green is not a real tall guy. I mean, he's only about 5'8" or so. 6'4" for Randy Moss. But Darrell Green can make up those 6 inches with his, or 8 inches rather, with his brain.
1st and goal on the 1, and the handoff is to Leroy Horde. And no signal yet, and flag is down. So another penalty as Horde is stopped short of the goal line. Randall Cunningham trying to bring the Vikings in for the go-ahead score, and this will be against the Redskins, and it'll be half the distance. Holding called against Washington.
Offside. Defense, number 97, lined up in the neutral zone.
Offside.
Penalize half the distance to the goal line. Repeat the down. 1st down.
So it'll be 1st and goal, about a foot away from
get ahead is keep the one you own.
Always a good idea. And there is a fade to Carter, and Stanley Richard very nearly picked that one off on the deflection. It'll go as an incomplete pass, but Richard could not have played that any better.
Played it perfectly. Stanley Richard, a safety, lined up outside. They want the bigger, more physical guy. And that's potentially a phenomenal play. Chris Carter finishes it. Now, Randall Cunningham, he sees it. So he goes out there and he slaps his rear end saying, oh, guess what, Chris, it's coming to you.
Second and goal, Randy Moss is split wide right. In motion, Chris Carter. And the handoff to Leroy Holt. He leaps into the end zone for the touchdown, and the Vikings have their first lead of the game. This is a team that is very deep in running backs, and Leroy Horde gets the easy one here.
And all he does is just turns into grunt football. And if you would look at that from the sideline, right down the goal line, you'd see that Washington's defensive front went backwards.
Gary Anderson, who has yet to miss extra points or field goals, gives the Vikings the two-touchdown lead.
Look at this. Look at that line of scrimmage. It was here, and now it's here.
Minnesota 14, Washington 7. Vikings now with a 14-7 lead. Brad Johnson with a pat on the back for Randall Cunningham. As the Redskins get set to get the ball again with 3:40 remaining in the first. Mitch Berger, and his kickoff shorter this time, and Brian Mitchell at the 3-yard line on the return. Mitchell with a good return. And Brian Mitchell brings it out to the 43-yard line before Bobby Houston makes the tackle, and a 40-yard return by Mitchell. Well, last night, Chuck Knobloch hit a 3-run homer to tie the game in the 7th inning. The Yankees were trailing 5-2 at the time, but that wasn't all for the Pinstripes. Tino Martinez in the same inning followed with a grand slam homer. The Yankees went on to win 9-6 to take a 1-0 lead in the World Series. And tonight, Game 2 of the World Series on Fox. Andy Ashby leads the Padres against El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. First down for the Redskins on the 43-yard line. Perrott with a short drop, and the pass is incomplete, and a flag is back down in the backfield. Corey Fuller defending on the play.
Didn't get set.
Here's DeCantac.
Illegal shift.
Yeah.
2 men on the offense moving prior to the snap. 5 yards.
The Washington Redskins' worst enemy this season been themselves.
Penalties and turnovers.
You can't beat yourself. If you beat yourself, you've got problems. They have enough problems, talent-wise, to have to play to a high level because, you know, they've got some holes.
Well, they have good field position after the return, and now they're back 5 yards. First and 15. Back to the 38-yard line. Terry Allen doesn't get much. And right now, let's send you to James Brown for an NFL update.
Hey, Dick, take a look at the NFL's worst-ranked offense getting untracked. 66-yard drive culminates with this rollout by Danny Cannell to Charles Way. 7-0 Giants over Arizona. That in the first. Back to Dick and Matt.
And the Arizona Cardinals 3-3. Giants looking to move into a tie for second in the NFC East.
Well, what's been missing in New York has been their big play defense. If they can score a couple of points, they will get that big play defense back because every defense plays better with points at their back.
Stephen Davis goes in motion, 2nd and 14. And Gus Perrott pass, and it's nearly picked off by Hitchcock. And he'd like to get that one back. Leslie Shepard, the intended receiver. Jimmy Hitchcock, the ex-Patriot, lets that ball get off his fingertips.
Well, they're not going to have any time to throw the ball if they don't take care of John Randall. Milstead doing a real nice job because he singled him. He did an excellent job. And then Hitchcock made the break on this ball before Leslie Shepard ever had a chance. And really, that goes back to the quarterback because he's eyeballed him. I'm expecting a see a double move here pretty soon, the way these corners are jumping.
3rd and 14, 3 wide receivers. Brian Mitchell the back. And a flag is down and Kalani sacked. Tony Williams, number 94, as the Vikings rotate.
It's not going to matter.
7 defensive linemen and a false start called against Washington.
Yeah, so the play never happened.
So Williams won't get his sack, but the Redskins.
Prior to the snap, number 74 offense, false start. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
And that was the other number 74. Williams didn't get the sack. Badger, false start.
Now, the reason this happens, see, is because once this guy right here, once Brad Badger moves, you stop play. See, the play can't go. See that little bit? They called that. And so that means the line of scrimmage isn't established, so you can't really start a play until that line of scrimmage is established.
Remember, the Redskins started on their 43-yard line. They're back to the 34 and have been penalized already 4 times. Albert Connell in the game, number 83, and there is the blitz and the screen pass to Brian Mitchell. And Mitchell finally taken down by Ed McDaniel, way short of the first down, will force the Redskins to kick.
In that series, the Minnesota Vikings defensive front kind of asserted itself. It starts with Randall, and everything works off of him. See, the thing and key to John Randall isn't necessarily that he makes every pass rush, it's that you have to be aware of him. And so then you have to start concentrating on him, and then you bring numbers and somebody comes clean.
Especially against a beleaguered offensive line that has been makeshift throughout most of the year. Matt Turk with a high kick. David Palmer watches it bounce out of bounds, so a good kick for Turk and the Redskins as it goes out of bounds inside the 10 at about the 7-yard line. Well, the Redskins, who are favored by some to win the NFC East, Matt, looking for their first victory of the year, losing to the Eagles last week, and talking to Darryl Green, he says, you know, until we're mathematically eliminated, my attitude will never change in football. I'm always going to think we have hope.
Darryl Green is the consummate pro. You know, I'm going to have to excuse myself on Darryl Green because I'm a big Darryl Green fan.
You're excused.
Ever since I started watching him play, but then when I played with him, I realized what a true pro he is.
First down at the 8. Multiple tight ends for the Vikings. Randall Cunningham hands off to Robert Smith, and Smith trying to go outside, gets about a yard or so.
A lot has been said recently about the Redskins quitting. I played a lot of years. Played with a lot of guys. I have never seen a guy in their mind knowingly quit. Ever. You go out there to play every play like it's your last play. You know that it's your resume, and that's your signature. And you're not going out there to fail. So I have a hard time when I hear somebody say, this guy quits. That really bugs me.
Well, they don't know, probably. Total yards, 128 to 19 in favor of the Vikings, and they add to it. Andrew Glover will get the first down as he's ridden out of bounds by Sean Barber, and a gain of 13 yards, and the Vikings, who started from the 8, have a first down and some breathing room.
Again, a nice job of the offensive line. Ndu Kalu has a chance to come right up inside and doesn't, and then Randy Moss makes that play. They just take the tight end and send him off. Randy Moss gets a jam off of Chris Dishman, stays with the jam, takes him back inside, and clears that side.
Under a half a minute remaining in the first quarter. First down for the Vikings on the 21, and there is Cunningham, zips it, tipped a little. And a fine play made by Evans, Leomon Evans, defending on the pass intended for Andrew Glover.
Leomon Evans played it perfectly. And that is called trail coverage. You let the guy get on top of you, and then see the ball has to come high over the top. And Glover is a big target. Evans is a smaller player, but the ball almost has to be perfectly thrown. And if it isn't, then as a defender you have a chance to make the play, and he made it.
Once again, Randy Moss lined up to the bottom of your screen, 2nd and 10. And the handoff is to Robert Smith. Smith gets an opening, and another first down before he's brought down by Stanley Richard, and that may be the last play of the first quarter. A 16-yard pickup for Smith, who is off to a great start this year. And that that will be the end of the first quarter with the score. The Vikings 14, the Redskins 7. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Stockton here in Minneapolis as the Vikings lead the Redskins 14-7 as we start the second quarter. The Vikings have the ball on their 37-yard line, first down. Randall Cunningham with a play-action play and goes underneath with it, and the pass to Robert Smith, who just gained 16 yards on the last play of the first quarter, and Smith may have the first down and does. Looking at the first quarter statistics, and all favoring the Vikings as the Redskins scored on a turnover.
Well, 19 total yards to 156 yards. Part of that is the fact that this Redskin defense hasn't gotten the ball back, and the bigger part is their offense has just been. You can spell that, yeah.
First down at the 47, and Cunningham is going downfield, and two defenders on Jake Reed, including Chris Dishman, and you know that sooner or later they're going to be going at Dishman, who has had his problems so far this season.
But see, you can do what Dishman did there was perfect. He just plays smart. Randall Cunningham makes this offense exciting, and Chris Collinsworth talked about it. He pushes the ball down the field, and that makes it fun. That's why you showed up for Sammy Sosa and McGuire. You wanted to see the deep ball. Well, here it is. And it's an element of football that's been lacking as of late, and these guys have put it back in.
There's Green on Moss, 2nd and 10 at the 47. 3 wide receivers, and the give is to Robert Smith, and not much there. Brad Johnson, of course, the starting quarterback, went out in the second week with a broken right fibula, and there he was throwing, and he said he's going to work on the scout team this week, would like to come back for the Tampa Bay game on the road November 1st. More likely, Brad Johnson will return November 8th when the Vikings host the New Orleans Saints.
Well, then they'll be talking about should they put Brad Johnson in and take Randall Cunningham out since he's got the hot hand, and that's up to Dennis Green to decide, and everybody will have their opinion. But Brad Johnson, and Brad Johnson's a different kind of quarterback than Randall Cunningham.
3rd and 7. Randall knows his role, and he has fulfilled it terrifically.
0 time. It'll be 3rd and 13.
Delay a game.
5 yards. Still third down.
That's been a good debate, Matt. Should Randall Cunningham with the hot hand stay in there? But Brad Johnson is their number 1 quarterback, and I believe Dennis Green's going to go back to the number 1 man when he's ready.
Well, only they know. I mean, Dennis Green knows, and Dennis Green. One thing I'll say about Dennis Green, he has a good feel for his team, and he gets them to play for him each week.
3rd down and long for the Vikings. 3rd and 12. Cunningham, and he overthrows Reed, and defending was Chris Ditchman, and the pressure put on by the Redskin defense brings up 4th down.
Well, and the Redskin defense you're talking about is Dana Stubblefield, number 94 inside. And, he works through the double team, and this is coverage. And also the fact that Stubblefield didn't quit. He worked off the guard in the center, Christie, and just kept on coming. And Cunningham tried to throw deep, which takes a little bit longer time. You just keep your motor going.
Mitch Berger with an end-over-end kick, and Brian Mitchell fields it on the 15, gets ahead of steam. Brian Mitchell gets tripped up, and it was Kay Mays, who is a rookie, and he makes a big special team tackle. Kay Mays from North Carolina on the play. We'll be right back. Back inside the Metrodome, the Vikings lead the Redskins 14-7. Stephen Alexander has been in there most of the way at tight end. The rookie from Oklahoma, Norv Turner, telling us he wants to make more use of Alexander, who got shut out, did not catch a pass against Philadelphia last week. First down at the 39-yard line, a play fake by Farrat, and he goes up the middle, and it's Terry Allen in open field. He'll get the first down into Minnesota territory. And hasn't been much offense today for the Redskins on their second possession because of the turnover. On the punt, they got the ball at the 2 and scored. And the only highlight was a ball that bounced off of Randy Moss, who didn't even see the ball, recovered by Darryl Pounds, and they scored on Allen's touchdown. So this is the second foray, first by the offense into Viking territory. They're on the 46. And Farrat in trouble. And the pass nearly intercepted. Jamie Asher off his hands, and they're very nearly picked off by Ed McDaniel.
Early, Norv Turner decided to try to test those corners. He went after Corey Fuller. Corey Fuller sat on it and jumped it. Then he went after Hitchcock, first play of the game, tried to go deep on him. I like that. The problem with that is you can't do it if you can't protect. And right now, Gus Farrat is getting pressure up inside.
Leslie Shepard along with Michael Westbrook is wide out, 2nd and 10. And the handoff is to Terry Allen, and he gets pushed back. And a fine play by Pete Bursich, the linebacker who's playing in place of the injured Dwayne Rudd today.
You look around the National Football League, there's not a lot of depth. Minnesota has as much depth as anyone. Pete Bursich can play in a lot of places, can start on a lot of teams. But he's behind number 1 pick Dwayne Rudd. But when he gets his chance, he plays extremely well. I like his game.
Well, he came in the first quarter and played 3 quarters against the Packers 2 weeks ago when Rudd went out. So it'll be 3rd down and 8. 3rd and long for the Redskins. Pressure on Gus Farrat, and his pass is dropped.
Beat yourself.
Albert Connell was there. He was open, and the ball bounced off his chest.
You can't do any more. They got their protection. Quarterback stepped up nice in the pocket. He hit him in a bad spot right in the chest. You know, that's the mistake that just continues. When you get stuff like this, see, when you win, that stuff doesn't happen. When you're losing, it compounds itself. And you go back and you go, I can't believe it. Well, get him next time. Forget get it next time. Get it right the first time.
It's gotta be frustrating because when you get a play to work like that, and then it fizzles, you hang your head that much lower. Matt Turk on 4th down will kick. David Palmer with the fair catch call, and he makes the catch with a Redskin right in his face at about the 7-yard line. Timeout. Still early in the second quarter, and the Vikings lead 14-7. Fox Sunday doubleheader. Most of you will see the Dallas Cowboys leading the NFC East against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Emmitt Smith and company against the Chicago Bears. Eric Kramer's had a good year statistically so far.
I think Eric Kramer's played pretty well. They need to be more consistent. They've been beating themselves as well. Seems like the Chicago Bears are just good enough to get beat.
Randall Cunningham and the Vikings start from their 7. Robert Smith, and nothing there. And that'll bring up 2nd down. Smith has carried 7 times for 27 yards thus far. The touchdown scored by Leroy Horde with a 1-yard run. Andrew Glover with an 11-yard catch for Minnesota.
Dick, if you listened to our pregame show, you heard Howie Long talking about this offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings and how they're arguably one of the best in the league, if not the best. And I think the reason is because they play well together as a unit.
They're the nuts and bolts of this offense. No question about it. 2nd down and 8. Leroy Horde has come in at running back, and a play fake to Horde. And Randall Cunningham is going deep. And the pass is beautiful. Caught by Reed. Great Reed. And Darrell Green, who has been guarding the rookie Moss, went with Reed that time and covered him well.
I want to show you something that Darrell Green does. First of all, he knows he's going to have to run because there's protection and time for Cunningham. See how Cunningham looked to the left? He set him up. Now see how Darrell Green's hanging to the outside? There's a reason for that. The reason is when the ball is thrown back to the inside, he can use his speed now to stay with him and then come around inside. Actually, that was more of an interference than the one he had down in the end zone.
It looked that way.
Darrell Green still one of the top corners in the league.
3rd down and 8, still shadowing Reed. Cunningham looking that way, dumps it off to Leroy Horde, and Horde won't go anywhere as he's tackled on the 11-yard line. And that will bring up 4th down. And Dana Stubblefield making the tackle, and so the Redskins, who have not been able to mount much of an offense all day today, should get good field position following this kick.
Dick, 2nd play in a row, Darrell Green came through because Randall Cunningham wanted to go to Jake Reed deep again, but Darrell Green took it away, and he had to pull it back down and then dump it off underneath.
Mitch Berger about 3 yards in the end zone. punting for the third time, and Brian Mitchell back deep for the Redskins. Good high kick. Fair catch called for by Mitchell. About 2 yards short of midfield, but in Redskin territory. So 9:48 remain in the second quarter. The Redskins trail the Vikings by a touchdown.
To watch his head and then see where he's looking. Tries to get the safety first, looks this way, tries to get him this way. Now he comes off, he wants to go deep. Darrell Green right there pulls him off, and here's why. See, he takes this deep part away. There was the pump back here, there was no place to go. Forces him to pull it down and then throw it back underneath. And that is all done because a 5'8" corner takes on a 6'3.5" receiver. You make up that 8 inches with your brain.
One of the best, if not the best, going today is Darrell Green. Meanwhile, the Redskins with their best starting position other than the turnover and the long pass by Farad, broken up downfield by Jimmy Hitchcock. Westbrook was the intended receiver.
You know, part of playing in an offense is knowing who to throw to and when. And I want you to watch the safety hanging up top. He's running a cover 2. Look at this. Maybe I'm blind, I don't know, but he kind of looks open to me. Instead, he tried to get Hitchcock on the double move up top, and Orlando Thomas read it perfectly. Safety comes over and incompletion.
Farad is 2 for 7 now for 25 yards. That's all. Second down and 10, and the pass out pass, and Hitchcock breaks it up again, intended for Westbrook.
You know, we haven't really mentioned John Randall's name today. The reason I think Rod Milstead inside is playing pretty well. Number 69 working on Randall just does a nice job of getting his hands on him. And this is the kind of guy who gives you a lot of movement. He's not getting any help. He's by himself. He came over from the 49ers, and Bob McKittrick always teaches athleticism. And Milstead is giving the Redskins that.
Ryan's done a good job today. Third down and 10, but they got to keep doing it. And the pass underneath to Jamie Asher, and the tight end close to the first down, and appears. Well, they may need a measurement. Jamie Asher very close to the first down yardage. 9:26 to go.
Now, see, the official on the sideline is marking the real spot.
They're going to move it back.
Yeah, and they're going to take it back.
And they will be short as a result.
Yeah, Dale Williams, who's the head linesman, he saw the placement right away. In fact, he made him move everything back. And so North Turner saying, guess what, all right, we're short, but we're going to go for it anyway.
And there is Asher getting stopped. Well, when you're 0-6, there's DeCantac moving the ball back. There you go. But the Redskins will go for it on 4th down and 1. Oh, the 3 tight ends. Pack the line, and the handoff. Terry Allen, he's got the first down as a flag goes down. Allen gets inside the 40-yard line, and this will go against Washington.
It's going to be a hold against the Washington Redskins, and I believe it was Joe Patton.
Joe Patton getting back in action after being out with a knee injury, coming back at left guard today.
Holding. Offense, number 34.
Oh, Jim Kitts.
10-yard penalty. Repeat the down.
Watch Jim Kitts, number 34. Remember, they didn't have a fullback on their roster. Well, guess what? In the words of Billy Crystal, I seen voice.
Larry Bowie, Matt, you were talking about the fullback, lost for the season with a broken leg. And so, without a fullback, Jim Kitts, who was a Redskin property, played with Miami briefly and now back with North Turner. It is not a happy sideline for the Redskins right now.
That's not a North Turner or coaching or any of that. That's just make the play. It's what you're paid to do.
Matt Turk with a kick, and the ball bounces out of bounds at the 5. Right now, Matt Turk may be the MVP of this Washington Redskin team. I shouldn't say that. That's
a bad sign. Who's your best player? Our kicker. Boom.
Of a touchdown and even a bigger lead in ball control when you look at 10 more plays run off by the Vikings, who have now started their 3rd possession inside the 10-yard line. They were on the 8 when they started 3 possessions ago, then the 7, and now they will begin from the 6-yard line. But Denny Green has 3 wide receivers, actually 3 now, with Moss wide left and Randall Cunningham, who can been this kind of year for a snake-bit team that can't find their way out, Matt. And there is perhaps the most graphic example last week against Philadelphia. 0-6 is 0-6.
Yeah, and I think when things go bad and you lose, they get worse. And it's seemingly one of those holes you can't crawl out of. But I think the biggest thing is you cannot beat yourself. And they have been doing that time and time again.
Second down and 6 from the 10-yard line. And again, Robert Smith, and he's brought down by Dan Wilkinson for no gain. You want to know exactly how the Redskins have beaten themselves. Just take a look at after 6 games last year and this year. Penalties, sacks allowed, turnovers.
And that's not even taking into account mental errors and missing guys wide open and simple things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that those are just basically symptoms of problems inside.
Third down and 6. Cunningham out of the shotgun, rolling to his right. Looking, firing, and it's caught at the 21 by Chris Carter. And that's a Viking first down.
That's what I was talking about with Chris Carter. See, he plays as well as any receiver in the league with his eyes. If you zone him, he'll kill you. And if you go man and you roll your quarterback, see, now that stretches zones. And that puts pressure. Pounds did it again. See, Pounds is going to learn here one of these days, when you're in man coverage, keep your eyes on the man. Don't sneak a peek.
Out of trouble once again, the Vikings. Out of the shadow of their goal line. First down at the 21. And Randall was going to put it up again, and he goes underneath. It's dropped. And it was intended for Carter and defended by Pounds on that one.
Nice job by Pounds of making a hit and coming up. And I'll tell you who's been having an awful quiet day today has been Randy Moss. And you see how Darrell Green's playing him? Randy Moss has made all of his plays down the field. He's made things vertical. So they're not even going to look at any double moves inside because he wants to get deep.
He hasn't caught a pass, and neither has Jake Reed today. So the weapons have been quiet. Here is Robert Smith. Flag is down, and Smith is tackled by Kennard Lang. But another penalty marker is thrown.
Dick, when you look at this game right now, we talked about it, and it's going to be a hold against Minnesota. We talked about it right at the start. You asked me, how do the Washington Redskins win? And I said, eliminate big plays.
Holding offense, number 71, 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down.
David Dixon, the right guard. And they have eliminated the big plays.
Well, the first touchdown, they gave a big play up to David Palmer, and then also one for a first down to Chris Carter, and that was really the difference in the whole series. They've taken away, if you take away big plays and make them methodically work down the field, you can beat this team.
Problem is that the Redskin offense, which should move the ball against this team, hasn't been able to do anything. Second down and 20. Back to the 11-yard line. A play fake. Randall Cunningham goes underneath. Flag down again. Robert Smith trying to get away from Darrell Pounds. Goes out of bounds and a flag down. Back at the line of scrimmage.
It's going to be against Minnesota again.
And illegal hands to the face. Penalty against Minnesota.
They'll decline that one and give you a third and long.
Hands to the face. Face mask. Offense, number 73. Penalty is declined.
Hey, he was real sure about that one. Number 73. We'll go with the 3. What the heck? Well, let's watch 73, Stussy. And guess what? He was right. Jamal Duff did a good job, came back underneath. Stussy held his ground, posted with that right hand. It just happened to hit him in the kisser.
Third down and 13. Vikings on their 18-yard line. David Palmer is in the game, and as Matt said, when Palmer's in, there's a reason why. And here comes the blitz on Randall Cunningham. It's picked up, and the pass downfield.
That is a huge play. You see what they did there? Jamal Duff dropped off. They came with the blitz. This is really smart. I want you to watch. You said David Palmer's in for a reason. Blitz your coverage. Make him stay in. He can't get out. He's got to pick up the blitzer. Then you take Jamal Duff, and that is really tough to do. That is really a great play by Jamal Duff, who lines up as a down lineman and then got his rear end down the field to knock the ball away.
Andrew Glover was the intended receiver, and Brian Mitchell with the fair catch at the Redskins 40-yard line. Well, the Redskins have had the edge in field position today, but still stuck on a 14-7 deficit. Well, Fox is raising the hemlines on Mini Skirt Monday, starting with an all-new Melrose Place. And how short is too short? Find out on an all-new Ally McBeal. It all starts tomorrow at 8, 7 Central on Fox. Well, the Redskins trying to muster something offensively. They have not been able to do it today yet. Trailing by a touchdown. First down on their 40. Here is Terry Allen. And the ex-Viking comes out and gains about 4. Kylie Wong, who is the second-round draft pick by the Vikings, making the tackle.
We talked about the difference in the offensive lines. You can see just as the games started in the terms of experience, Minnesota, well, it shows up in their play. And then you look at the Redskins, they've got a lot of young guys. They haven't played a lot of games. And more than that, they've had to shuffle guys in and out, so you don't really get that cohesive unit going.
Second down and 6. And the pitch goes to Terry Allen. Allen cutting outside. First down for the Redskins.
Nice call.
Ed McDaniel bringing him down after a gain of 10 yards and a first down. And Dennis Green said today that he says, you know, the closer this game is, as long as it goes, the tougher it'll be, because we are a smaller team and the Redskins have the ability to wear us down.
Well, that guy there, they need Terry Allen to wear him down. Skip Hicks now comes in for him. And if he gets any carries, it'll be his first.
Activated for the first time last week against Philadelphia, did not play. Picked in the 3rd round from UCLA, and he's got a world of speed.
Pretty big guy, too. He needs to learn to keep his shoulders square.
First down for the Redskins on the Vike 46. Pressure coming in on Farad, and he had no chance. Kylie Wong came clean, and that is the second sack by Minnesota today.
Nice job by Coach Fazio, their defensive coordinator. They just bring numbers. They're going to come from the outside. Kylie Wong comes clean. And it's actually he and Dwayne Clemens, 92, who get there. But it's interesting. There's Coach Fazio. It's interesting when a guy comes and somebody comes clean, that means the protection was blown. And that is a mental error because there was nobody on him at all.
So Farad has been under pressure today. Now with a second down and 14 at midfield. He gets protection this time, and Farrad's pass is caught inside the 35. And Michael Westbrook with a big reception, and that will be good enough for a Washington first down.
Well, no mental errors this time, and there's time to throw the football. And when he has time, you can afford to push the ball down the field. Nice job by Farad of feeling the pocket and then stepping up. And that is the time given allows Michael Westbrook to find the middle of that zone defense.
First catch of the day for Michael Westbrook, who's off to a terrific start, best of his career. Now a first down on the 34 of Minnesota. That was only the 4th Redskin first down of the half. Farad bobbles it and picks it up. Flag down goes down, and 2 of them in fact. So a couple of close calls could have resulted in fumbles, but it'll be holding marked off against the Redskins anyway.
A lot of holding calls.
Just when the Redskins seem to be making progress, good field position or moving the ball, penalties.
Holding. Offense. 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. First down. Number 68. Offense holding.
It's Joe Patton, the left guard. Played right guard last season for the Redskins.
He's right here. Working on John Randall.
That just slipped out of his hand.
Yeah, and Randall just slipped out of the hands of Patton, too.
First down and 20. Penalty story. Redskins still in Viking territory at the 44. Stephen Davis in motion to the left. And Farrad's pass is to Steven Alexander. And the rookie tight end is brought down at the 39-yard line by Kylie Wong. So it'll be second down and long coming up with under 2.5 minutes to play here in the first half.
Kylie Wong's getting some playing time here. Dixon Edwards Riley Wong's a second-round pick. He's got some speed. He's got some size. And he's young, and they like what he brings to the table.
From Stanford, where Dennis Green coached. 2nd and 14, and Farrat makes the pass. It's incomplete.
No, it's a fumble. Now they're going to call it incomplete.
Michael Westbrook did not hold on, and there is Darryl Boston, whose son is a top pass catcher for the Ohio State Buckeyes, David Boston, and he was right in on the play as we're down to the 2-minute warning with 1:55 to go in the half.
It is, well, at least between Dick and I, if this is a fumble or not. I want you to watch. There's the catch. 1, 2 steps. Nice job by Jimmy Hitchcock of slapping that thing away. And Burstich is on top of it. I think the call goes in Washington's favor on that one.
I think we ought to settle this outside.
Go ahead. You start, and I'll close the door. That's one of those Three Stooges moves. Step over this line. Great. Now you're on my side.
3rd down and 14 following the 2-minute warning. Redskins on the Vikes 38. Shepard in motion toward the line, and Gus Farrat's pass is caught by Brian Mitchell, and that'll bring up 4th down at the 31-yard line. Robert Griffith making the stop. And coming up on the Visa halftime report, JB, Terry, Howie, and Chris will have scores and highlights from around the league, and our Fox Sports ticker will have up-to-the-second stats, and that's all coming up on the Visa halftime report. Redskins will attempt a field goal with Cary Blanchard from 49 yards out. Blanchard, the 3rd place kicker used by the Redskins this year. Matt Turk is the holder, and Blanchard's kick is no good.
He had enough of it. I mean, he had enough leg into it. Just kind of sliced it.
49-yard kick. Misses, and the Vikings retain a 14-7 lead as the kick went off wide left, and with 1:13 to go, the Vikings have all 3 of their timeouts remaining.
Now there's a pretty picture. You can see as it hit, he hit it square. I mean, it came off nice. He had enough leg for it. He just kind of pulled it there to the left. He had 14-7. With 1:13 to go, as many mistakes as the Washington Redskins have made in this first half, if they get out of here down 14-7, they're still in this game.
Vikings with a decent field position, starting from their 39. 1:13 to go in the half, and all 3 timeouts remaining. Again, with 3 wide receivers, they've gone with that most of the way in this half. Pass is caught by Randy Moss, his first reception. And he's still going. And finally ridden out of bounds. But not before the Minnesota Vikings are in striking distance. That was a gain of 28.
You know, one of the few times you're going to see Randy Moss underneath. But what you see out of this is the great speed. So he's a long strider, but he can hit another gear fast. Probably the only guy on the field who can run with him is Darryl Green, who believes that no one can beat him. In fact, it's Darryl Green who forces him out of bounds.
First down for the Vikings on the Redskins 33. 1:02 on the clock. Cunningham's pass is caught by Moss again as he steps out of bounds at about the 23-yard line. And with 57 seconds to go, the clock stops. And the Vikings will get another first down. Randall Cunningham has thrown to 7 different receivers today. He has completed 13 of 22, and the touchdown pass to Andrew Glover.
And to me, the biggest key is the fact that he's not getting any pressure. I mean, he's just standing back there and throwing.
Well, the Redskins have had a problem putting on a pass rush against all the teams they faced this year, and now a timeout called by the Redskins, their first.
You have to generate a pass rush from a defensive end position or a blitz. And because in this league, you can't expect your defensive tackles to get sacks. I mean, you can expect them to get pressure and push inside, which generates sacks on the outside, but your pass rush has to really come off the corner.
Ken Harvey this year, who normally has been the top pass rusher with the most sacks, has struggled in that department.
Well, he struggled because they haven't had a chance to put him in those situations. Teams have just been chunking him, so they haven't had to really throw. You get to the end of the game or in situations where you want to let Ken Harvey cut him loose, and now is one of those situations, although a little tenuous here in the 23-yard line. So you want to get him in a position to let him come clean and let him use that speed.
David Palmer is in motion toward the line on first down, and they fake on an end around, and Palmer drops the ball. He had a long way to go. First lining up on the slot on the right, going in motion, and then dropping the pass.
That wasn't going to go anywhere. Marcus Patton had his coverage, and he jumped it right away, and then Ken Harvey got on his horse and rallied out there. Now you're going to use your speed to the outside, and you have to play this position with awareness. See, Harvey saw it right away. He saw 22, and he made that little mental note. He's coming this way for a reason.
Again, there are 4 wide receivers, and Palmer is lined up on the slot to the left. On second down and 10. Cunningham's pass is caught by Randy Moss. Out of bounds. The clock stops with 48 seconds to go. It's a first down for the Vikings. Darrell Green covering, and Vikings at least in field goal range now.
Darrell Green's getting up limping a little bit, but he gave a little bit too much cushion, and normally he doesn't like that. Oh, he anticipated an in route. He likes to play his zones close because he has the kind of speed to close on it, even with a guy like Moss who has that great stretch of speed. But Darrell Green's limping a little bit, but had Randall Cunningham looked down the field, he had 6 points with Palmer. Palmer was clean open.
Green defending against Moss, first and 10 at the 11-yard line. Robert Smith gets down to about the 5-yard line where Marcus Patton makes the tackle. And the whistle blows, and a timeout called by the Vikings. That is their second, and they have one left as Darrell Green has to limp off the field.
That's not a good sign. Now watch Palmer just runs right past the coverage. And he was wide open. And then Darrell had hurt his ankle or whatever it is previously, and now he knows he can't play corner. You can't play speed corner when you can't run. He's kind of holding that right knee loop.
Darrell Green, for some reason, always stays as durable. 38-year-old Darrell Green.
Well, that's not a good sign. It's funny talking to Darrell Green. He has such great confidence playing outside. And asked him about the speed of Randy Moss. He said, I've really only ever been aware of 2 guys who could run, Alexander Wright and Joey Galloway. And I said, what does that mean? He said, when they took off and run, I said, whoa, this guy, let me see you do that again.
Tim Denton has come in and replaced Darrell Green. Well, those 2 receivers caught his attention for sure.
Yeah, because they could scoop. And it's not about speed on the clock, speed on the track. It's about speed in full uniform on the football field. And that's a different kind of speed. And it's something that Darrell has always had.
Timeout called by Washington, and the Redskins making sure they have the right people on the field. Well, in the first quarter, Terry Allen with a 2-yard run following a turnover on a muff kick, and then Andrew Glover with an 11-yard catch from Randall Cunningham to make it 7-7, and then Leroy Horde with a 1-yard touchdown run. That has been all the scoring. None here in the second quarter, although the Vikings threatened. They have twice been in the red zone, twice have scored touchdowns, and now have a second down and 4 at the 5.
Dick, any time this Minnesota Viking offense is in the red zone, seemingly every time they score.
Leroy Horde is the lone back. Cunningham will throw, and it's dropped. It was Glover, again the intended receiver, and Leamon Evans doing a good job defending in the back of the end zone.
Time to throw. He knows where he wants to go. Nice job by Cunningham looking outside. That should have been 6.
It got to him.
Look at this ball. Ball comes right in.
It was dropped.
Sean Barber got a hand and flash, but you have to make those catches in this league.
3rd and 4. 38 seconds to go in the first half. Pressure put on Cunningham. Here is Horde. And Leroy Horde does not get over. It was Ken Harvey who rode him out of bounds before Horde could get the ball over the plane.
That was really fun to watch. Watch Leroy Horde. Ken Harvey gets on his horse. Horde makes the catch and then turns into a bull. He tries to carry him there, but nice call by the official. Did not get the ball inside the cone, and it set up this 4th and about a half a yard.
Actually, it is a first down. They needed 4 yards, and they got it just barely, Matt.
I knew that. I was just checking to see if you see how Hort tried to get in. Harvey did a nice job of keeping him out.
First and goal at the 1 yard line, and here is Leroy Hort going over the top. No signal yet. And it appears as Dixon having the ball.
Dixon's having a ball down there.
He sure is.
He got the ball and
Cunningham slow getting up.
A little limpage.
Cunningham is shaken up as you see Hort does not get to the goal line, and that is the second timeout called by the Vikings.
Oh, there was a loose ball, and David Dixon, look at that. He thinks he scored. He's a happy camper down there.
He's looking around for the touchdown sign that never came. Officials having a
Fumble within 2 minutes.
Cannot advance.
There you go. And that's what they'll say. See, that can't be a touchdown. You can't advance a fumble within 2 minutes of the half or the end of the game.
21 seconds remain in the first half. Randall Cunningham shaken up and still gingerly walking back to the huddle. Todd Bauman would be the backup quarterback.
He wears a kind of a ankle brace or something.
Jay Fielder, the other quarterback for the Vikings.
He was testing it to see. He went back and planted off that right ankle to see if he could push on it. They need to fix his shoulder pads. See how the right one is sticking up? He must have taken a hit there. So. Yeah, there's that thing. See that? What he has down here? See that thing he keeps on his ankle all the time? It's like a wrap, but it's just to keep it tight, he said, because he has some loose ligaments in there, and it's just kind of a reminder.
Redskins have used their third and final timeout, and Cunningham will now walk back to the sideline. But a great story this year, Randall Cunningham, who found a home, as many have, playing for Dennis Green in Minnesota after being out of football and working on tiles, something you could identify with.
Well, I think actually that was a humbling experience for him, because he got out of football, he had enough of it, and he went back to his home out in Las Vegas, and he had to work manual labor, something he'd never done before. And he said he had to carry boxes of marble up, and he said, how does it get there? You know, the only way it gets there is if you carry it there. And he said it really made him appreciate this job.
Darrell Green is back on the field, and that's good news for the Redskins. Second and goal at the 1.
Yeah, he's up here on Randy Moss. Get hurt, come back, see what you got. One-on-one.
Ford, nothing doing.
Nice job by Leomon Evans inside.
Third down. The Redskins cannot stop the clock, but the Vikings can, and they do, with 17 seconds to go, and now they've used their third timeout. So it is getting tense down the goal line as the Redskins try to keep a 7-point deficit. Let's take a look at the NFC Central Division. The Packers shocked again by the Detroit Lions this time after Minnesota ended the Packers' 25-game home winning streak the week before. Tampa Bay trying to get back to 500 today, and Detroit coming alive with Charlie Batch.
I like what they're doing up in Detroit, but they have to keep that consistent. Green Bay is kind of the story. Now, people are saying, oh, you know, Favre's really struggling. To me, what's happening in Green Bay is two things. First of all, their offensive line, they're finding some holes. Teams are attacking. And then secondly, without that running game, although Travis Jervey gives them something, but without a running game that they're comfortable with, Favre has to do everything. And I don't care who you are. You can't do everything by yourself. They effectively become the 49ers of 3 years ago, one-dimensional team.
That's a good point. Third and goal, and Cunningham caught by Chris Carter. And Carter with those great hands and the eyes, which Matt talked about, points skyward, and the Vikings get their touchdown with 14 seconds remaining in the first half.
Nice job. You can tell that Chris Carter and Randall Cunningham are on the same page and have been for a long time. You see where he threw that ball? He threw it up high where he can let Chris Carter become a basketball player. And that's what he does so well. And he just goes up, and he's got great hands. He just yanks that thing out.
And here is Gary Anderson. The extra point is good, so Chris Carter can box you out like a basketball player, make a kind of a catch that basketball players will make in the low.
He learned it from his brother.
That's right.
Watch how he does it. See, real physical. The coverage wasn't bad. Pounds again looks back inside. That's going to drive me crazy. If I were his coach, that would drive me nuts.
Well, this drive started at the 6-yard line and a leaping catch and the reaction by Cunningham. So Cunningham now with his second touchdown pass of the game, very nearly got to him. Kalu. And the score now is the Vikings leading the Redskins by a score of 21-7.
I mentioned about the coverage of Pounds. He looked back, and see, when you look back, you lose that feel of where the receiver is. So you anticipate that they're going to go underneath, and so you break underneath, and then what happens is Chris Carter goes up top, and you get separation. Now that being said, I don't believe with that throw, even with better coverage, it wasn't going to matter, because he threw it up high and allowed Chris Carter to do what he does well, just go up and rip the ball out.
And the touchdown tied Chuck Foreman, one behind Bill Brown for the all-time touchdown leaders for the Minnesota Vikings. And you know he'll shatter that mark.
44 and 30.
That's right.
Bill Brown, the old bow-legged Brown himself. I love watching little bowling ball.
Gary Anderson kicking off, and a bouncing kick picked up by Asher, and Asher laterals as we get down to 8 seconds, 7 as the clock will stop, as Asher lateraling the ball to Sellers, and Gus Farrat with not much time to do much. This is not good news for the Redskins, who have been shattered in the third quarters this year. Here is the scoring drive. After trailing 7-0, the Vikings 21 unanswered points. Carter with his 5th touchdown catch of the year from Randall Cunningham.
Chris Carter's fun to watch. If you appreciate football and the passing game, you appreciate Chris Carter, because he plays with his head as much as he does with his ability.
From the 48-yard line, and Farad is sacked by Derek Alexander as 2 seconds remain on the clock. But the Vikings starting to head for the dressing room, and time has run out. So the Redskins, with early hope, scored a touchdown off a turnover, but Randall Cunningham bringing back the Vikings with 2 touchdown passes, and the Minnesota Vikings, trying to win their 6th game without a loss this year, will go into intermission with a 2-touchdown lead. Randy Moss, quiet in the first quarter, came alive toward the latter stages of the first half. And the end of the first half with the score. The Vikings 21, the Redskins 7. Fox NFL Sunday will continue as JB, Terry, Howie, and Chris will bring you the Visa halftime report after this message and a word from your local Fox station. First half in this game, but against Green Bay, nearly 500 yards passing in the first half in the last 2 games.
Look at those numbers. That looks like a season for some guys. And you can see the no interceptions. That's the key. Hasn't thrown a pick in over 100 passes.
12 touchdowns, no interceptions. Let's take a look at the halftime statistics. Total yards, 257 for the Vikings, 79 for the Redskins.
No, there's not really much to add to that. It's pretty self-explanatory. Gus Farrat 6 out of 13, and you know the 7 incompletions, the ones that would really bother you, are the ones where he had guys open and he didn't see them. And I think that goes back to just consistency. Really, you have to be consistent in everything,
particularly your accuracy.
And also, you know, to be fair to the quarterback, you have to have time consistently also, and then there are times when he hasn't had them.
Well, third quarters have not been kind to the Redskins, who have been outscored 63-13 in third quarters this year. They're going to get the ball first. Mitch Berger's kick, fielded by Brian Mitchell in the end zone. And Mitchell can't get away and doesn't reach the 15-yard line. Bobby Houston, the former New York Jet, activated today because of the injury to Dwayne Rudd, makes the special teams play. And James Jenkins, the best blocking tight end for the Redskins, is shaken up.
It's in that kickoff, you see James Jenkins up under his own power, but on the kickoff, Brian Mitchell was receiving the kick, and they still had some of those flag people right behind him. That's right. They're trying to scoot him off the field. There's James Jenkins right there. And it looks like he just got rolled up on.
So Jenkins going to the sidelines, and the Redskins starting from the 14-yard line have not been able to muster much of an offense. There's John Randall moving around the line. Leslie Shepard in motion, first down. Here's Terry Allen. And Allen, who gained 31 yards on 8 carries and scored a touchdown, gets a good opening and a Washington first down. A gain of 13 yards with Griffith making the tackle. And the Redskin mistakes continuing into game number 7.
Again, don't beat yourself. In order for this team to win, they can't beat themselves. And like, this is not a defense of any coaching staff or North Carolina. I'm going to tell you something. To me, that's pride as a person. And there is not a single coach that I ever played for who made me play better. It comes from within. You have to have pride.
Pitch goes right this time to Terry Allen with a good cut inside. Gets nearly a first down before Alexander downfield makes the play. So 2 smart runs by Terry Allen, and the Redskins moving the ball on the ground early in the 3rd.
Yeah, and T. Allen getting up a little slow. In fact, he's coming off. But this is what he does well. He runs with his eyes, and he'll finish that run. That's a nice hit there by Derek Alexander, and I think that's what's taking Terry Allen to the sideline.
First down as Allen goes out, and Skip Hicks, who appeared briefly in the first half, gets his chance here on the pitch. Skip Hicks, and he's going to lose a couple of yards. Good pursuit by the Viking defense, led by Robert Griffith, the strong safety, and that was the first carry in Skip Hicks' NFL career, the rookie from UCLA.
2 players on this Minnesota Viking defense past John Randall, who your eye, when you watch the tape, it always falls on. One of them is Ed McDaniel, number 58, and the other one is Robert Griffith, number 24. Both of those players, both of them play 100 miles an hour. And both of them have pride.
Griffith has the NFL interception lead with 5 coming into this weekend as well. Second down and 12. Perrott under siege. Gets out of some trouble. And now he's just going to race somewhere, and nearly got his head taken off as he got back to the line of scrimmage where McDaniel brought him down.
If he'd have had time initially, which of course he didn't, Michael Westbrook ran that double route I was talking about. He just ran right by Jimmy Hitchcock, and that was open. And then he looked down again, another double move. He had 2 guys, but the problem was right here. They came with the blitz. Burstich missed him. Colonnade missed him. He had the presence to come outside, but then he couldn't find the 3rd guy. Actually had Steven Alexander closing to him.
So he is sacked the 4th time. That is a sack against Perrott. 3rd down and 12. And the time runs out on the play clock, and a delay of the game penalty. So 5 more yards.
Delay. Offense.
And that'll make it
5
3rd and
yards.
17.
Still 3rd down.
So this Redskin team, and of course, they haven't played well at any point this year, but now in the 3rd quarter, that has been their killer quarter. Outscored 63-13, and starting out no different. There you see 24th in the NFL in 3rd down conversions, and today 0 for 6.
Well, if they're continually crushing that pocket, you don't have time, then you have to start moving your pocket.
And Perrott's pass to Westbrook, and Fuller trying for the interception, and let's see if he got it. He did.
Nice play by
Corey Fuller with the interception, and the Vikings get it back at midfield.
Fuller played it perfectly. He's reading the quarterback better than the quarterback is reading him.
NFL Sunday is brought to you by the U.S. Army. Be a part of the toughest, smartest Army in the world. Be all you can be.
Dick Stockton and Matt Millen back here at the Metrodome. Corey Fuller with his 3rd interception of the season. Gus Perrott firing it. A misfire, and the Vikings with their best starting position of the day. Midfield. Leading 21-7. And Randall Cunningham swings it out to Robert Smith. Pass thrown behind him. And he gets about a yard is all.
Remember I said about Corey Fuller reading the quarterback better than the quarterback read him? I want you to watch. Right here's Corey Fuller down here, and here's Gus Farad. Now, he's going to read an in route. The quarterback has to anticipate the movement and throw it on the break. Ball has to be thrown. See, it's got to be thrown now. Corey Fuller sees this and makes the break back underneath, and that's a great job of anticipating by Fuller. Go, go, go!
Charles Evans goes in motion to the right. And Robert Smith with a good cut and a first down. Let's see where they spot the ball for the Vikings. Darrell Green making the tackle, and now the Vikings leading 21-7 can afford to use up some time. Darrell Green, shaken up in the first half, maybe hurt again.
Watch Jeff Christie, number 62. One of the major reasons this offensive line has been playing better than a year ago is Jeff Christie's play. I think Mike Tice, the offensive line coach, figured out when he watched Jeff Christie that one of the things he did very well was move. Not the biggest guy, you can see only 280, and that's with a rock in his pocket. But what he did real well was he was smart, and he got outside and he was able to move. And they put it into use.
Darrell Green had to leave the game. Limping was helped off in the first half. Now he's hit again here in the third.
Kelvin Kinney didn't open his eyes. He hit Darrell instead of the ball carrier.
And a timeout has been called. We'll be right back to Minneapolis. Coming up next, the second half of our Fox NFL Sunday doubleheader. Emmitt Smith leads the Cowboys against the Bears. Some of you will see interconference battles between the Rams and Dolphins and the Eagles and Chargers. Third down and 1 at the 40-yard line. Leroy Hort with two tight ends, and the power attack for the Vikings gets them a first down. Darrell Green has a bruised shoulder, and the word is he will be back in the secondary for the Redskins. And here he comes. So he was out one play, and Darrell Green, ever durable, at age 38, comes back into the lineup for the Redskins.
Darrell Green will always be able to run straight ahead. The difference in his game will be when he can't stop and start.
Randy Moss, who caught 3 passes for 50 yards.
There he is down here.
And Darrell Green defending him. First down on the 37-yard line of Washington, and they've got Moss downfield, and it's knocked away. Double coverage, and Stanley Richard knocked the ball away. Green was there as well as they try to go to the rookie Randy Moss.
Let me explain something again. I want you to see how Darrell Green is holding the outside. Now, the advantage you get when you do that is you're facing the ball. And he goes up and knocks that ball away along with Stanley Richard. Now, if you're on the inside, you have to turn your head back this way. But because you're on the outside, you can see it the whole way and then come back and make the play. That's really smart football by Darrell Green. Sorry.
Second and 10 at the 37. That's your affectionate term for him. Here is Robert Smith, and he gets nothing. Of course, we've chronicled the Randy Moss story. As you know, a lot of teams passed on him because of his problems in the past, taken on the 21st pick by Dennis Green, who told us on Saturday, he says, I had him as the third best athlete, and when I saw all the teams pass, I knew he would respond in our situation with people like Carter getting him under the wing.
This is what he does. See, first of all, he has great speed, and he can accelerate on the fly. And the second thing, he adjusts to the ball in the air so well. I mean, it's up there, he'll come back to the ball, he'll make the catch.
Third down and 8. On the 35-yard line, here comes the blitz. Stanley Richard, and Cunningham fires it away, and Randy Moss makes the catch. So Cunningham wouldn't go down, and Moss made the catch. It's only a 4-yard gain, but that's how things have gone for the Vikings this year.
I just flashed back to Monday Night Football versus the New York Giants. Randall Cunningham made a phenomenal play. Banks had him. He got out of it, came up and threw a touchdown pass.
It was horizontal.
He's going horizontally, gets the ball out there, and Moss makes the catch. And those are things you cannot coach. You either have it or you don't have it.
Good job, says Brian Billick. So a field goal attempt. Gary Anderson from 49 yards out, and the kick is good. So Gary Anderson, the 17-year veteran, in his first year with the Vikings, adds to their lead. And with 9 minutes to go in the third, the Vikings lead the Redskins 24-7. 49-yard field goal by Gary Anderson, and made possible because Randall Cunningham avoided the sack, which would have taken him out of field goal range, completed the pass, only 4 yards, but enough for Anderson to get a decent shot. And it's 24-7 in favor of the Vikings, and it was Moss who held on to that pass. Here is Mitch Berger on the kickoff. Brian Mitchell, 8 yards in the end zone, will down it for the touchback, and the Redskins will start from the 20. Well, the Redskins and the 0-6 teams headed for 0-7 will do this. 17 turnovers, resulting in 76 points allowed, the most in the NFL.
So what has gone wrong with Washington? I think, first of all, they don't have a quarterback. They don't have the quarterback they thought they had. Maybe that's more accurate. And I think, second of all, I think defensively, with Chris Dishman having himself a very off year, not playing up to par, that really hampers your defense, and that was one of your real strengths, maybe your only strength.
Barat trying to go on a slant to Leslie Shepard. Incomplete.
Well, I mean, take that play, for example. He has the play. The ball's there. The receiver's open. You just got to make that throw. That is not tough. You have time. You just step and throw. Here comes the slant route. There's nobody in your face. It's just a misfire. And that shouldn't happen in the National Football League, at least consistently.
2nd and 10. Time Asher splits wide to the left, and the handoff to Terry Allen, looking for running room. Allen does. What a terrific bit of running by Terry Allen. Short of the first down by 3. Here's James Brown and an NFL update. JB?
Hey, Dick and Matt, believe it or not, it's not Washington, but Carolina trying to break the NFL's longest losing streak. Burline doing his part, hooking up with Wesley Walls, 27 yards, setting up a Fred Lane TD run. Carolina looking for its first win on top. Tampa Bay by 10. Back to Dick and Matt.
I think with Steve Burline, they're going to get some consistency there that they haven't had. And I think it'll be something that they can actually build off of.
3rd down and 3. Albert Connell moving. Quick handoff. And the handoff to Brian Mitchell, and he'll get the first down. So a quick hitter to Brian Mitchell, and a first down to the 40-yard line. Torian Gray making the tackle.
Another thing you talk about, Dick, is what went wrong is they've been inconsistent. Now you'll get spurts like that, and they look good, and they'll come off the ball, and the line will do well, and they'll run, and then they'll turn around, and it just won't even look like the same team.
Well, Terry Allen today has moved in front of Ernest Biner for 3rd on the Redskins' all-time rushing leader. John Riggins way ahead. Larry Brown is 2nd. And Farad slipping, and his pass to Westbrook incomplete. And Westbrook, like Trent Green last week, stumbled and on the turf at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia going back, was not touched and fell down. Trent Green 0-5 as a starting quarterback for the Redskins after taking over in week 2 against the 49ers.
Dick, we haven't mentioned John Randall at all today, really. I mean, we've said he's moved around, and you're going to have to be able to take your protections to him. But that being said, he's not generated the stuff of the pressure. It's been coming from other places. They've had really to blitz to get there.
2nd down and 10. Terry Allen reverses direction. And then he's tripped up by Griffith. Robert Griffith in the backfield makes a big play. And it'll be 3rd down and long coming up for the Redskins. And today has been 3rd and long for them.
So we talked about John Randall's actually a nice block. They do a good job of coming down to Brad Badger, and now you're going to see that it's he reverses his field. Gus Farad makes a mistake. See, this is the old rule. If there are 2 guys coming, a big one and a little one, you take the little guy because he has the speed. You're assuming that your quarterback can outrun the big guy.
3rd down and 12. And a false start on Brad Badger as he saw what appeared to be the linebacker, I believe, coming around. And
False start. Offense, number 74. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
In the story of the Redskins this year. Today is no different than the first 6 games.
Well, what he saw really out there was John Randall lined up.
Okay.
And he knows he's going to have speed to that top corner, so you have to jump it quick. And you can see what this is. You just take away that left end, he's lined up everywhere. And he's just trying to create a mismatch. And he's also trying to make the protection. You can see he's lined up outside this time at right end.
3rd down and 17. Barat pumps once, pass to Mitchell, and Brian Mitchell will be stopped short by about 13 yards. And Ed McDaniel on the tackle, and Matt Turk will have to come in and kick it away once more.
If you're sitting there and you're wondering why they can't throw the ball downfield, it's because they got pressure right away. And you can see Albert Connell. Albert Connell thought he'd get himself a little shot in. Then see that first strike is usually good. Then the second one, you just put your hand to become a peacemaker, and that's usually when the flag gets thrown on the second guy.
2 reasonable men. I like to see that. Matt Turk kicking, and David Palmer will call for the fair catch as the ball bounces out of bounds. Vikings with a 24-7 lead, and Randall Cunningham will go back to work when we return to the Metrodome.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Southwest Airlines, proud sponsor of the NFL and official airline of the Super Bowl. By Pep Boys, cars like us, people love us. By Energizer Advanced Formula Battery, no battery lasts longer. And by Foot Locker, check out your favorite shoes and apparel at Foot Locker. Foot Locker reminds you to play big.
They used to have fans at the old Metropolitan Stadium outdoors in cold weather would wear no shirts. You can do it indoors here all the time. First down for the Vikings on the 22-yard line. Robert Smith finds an opening after a delay and close to the first down.
If you're wondering what Randall Cunningham's been doing with the ball today, well, here it is. And what I want to show to you is the fact that he's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. And I think that's what makes this play so exciting. You can see 11 times he's thrown it past 15 yards. And what they'll do is they'll just take a shot. And I like that. I think that opens up your offense, but also presses the defense.
130 straight passes without an interception. And here is Smith trying to turn the corner. And out of bounds he goes. Right now, let's check in with James Brown for an NFL update.
Dick and Matt, Giants breaking out of that offensive slump in a big way. Cannell out the shotgun, looking to the slot. 5-yard hitch run by Chris Callaway. Good effort by Chris as he takes it to pay dirt. 27-7 Giants. I know Matt Millen likes that effort. Back to Dick and Matt.
That's a great job, but then Danny Cannell is kind of finding who he has to get the ball to. And Jake Plummer really has not materialized into what they thought he was going to be this year, mostly because he needs help. He's just only in his second year, so he's kind of finding his game.
And the handoff is to Robert Smith. And Smith with a quick burst, short of the first down by a yard. Leamon Evans making the tackle. Jake Plummer had a big game against the Giants last year, but it's a different season, and Cannell has the edge in this game.
You know, so much is talked about the offensive line of Minnesota Vikings. I want you to watch Greg DeLong right here. See, everybody gets in the act. Boom, that's a nice, excellent job of attacking the backer and then creating that seam. With Robert Smith, with his speed, you give him the seam and he's through it.
2nd down and 1 on the Viking 45. And the handoff again. This is Charles Evans, the fullback, and he'll have the first down. Charles Evans, one of those many backs that the Vikings have. Talk about teams without depth today in the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings may have the best depth of any team in the NFC up and down the roster.
The one area that's really improved has been the right side of the offensive line of the Minnesota Vikings. And David Dixon, who, I mean, he's a monster of a man. They say 350, and that's, you know, he's like a biscuit away from 360. He's a huge man, and that's his biggest asset. And what Mike Tice, the offensive line coach, has done is got him to be able to use his hands.
First down on the 47-yard line, and here's Evans as a receiver, makes the catch for a gain of about 6 yards, and took a shot from Ken Harvey.
Talking about Randall Cunningham and throwing deep and his accuracy, all those things, they don't happen if your offensive line doesn't give you the time to get it done. And I got to tell you about David Dixon. He was a player who 2 years ago, nobody wanted. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings had questions whether they wanted him. But Dennis Green stuck with him because the biggest asset he had was that massive body. And they just needed him to be able to learn how to use it.
2nd down and 4. Here is Smith. And he is stopped close to the 1st down. And that has been the hallmark of Dennis Green's coach teams, Matt. His ability to develop people, get projects, and really develop them. Not give up on them and see them bear fruit. And Christie is one of them, and Griffiths is another.
Corey Stringer's another.
Brad Johnson.
He was a #1 pick. But I think what we're talking about there is patience. And that's something in this league that you don't have a lot of. Patience with players, especially in the free agent days. Take Corey Stringer, for example, their right tackle, number 77. Came into the league, he was 390 pounds. He's dropped about 50 pounds, and he's a much better player with it.
Leroy Horde gets the 1st down. Let's take a look at the Minnesota Vikings draft picks in the 1st round. And you want to start with their leading running back, Robert Smith. Go down the line. Dwayne Washington playing for the Steelers now. They're all starters, or have been, or will be.
Every one of these guys are starters. Every one. And then Dwayne Clemens is the guy that you look at and say he's not starting on, but they rotate everybody inside. So he's part of that as well. They've drafted very well, and they've also drafted in the lower rounds well.
Randy Moss checks in as the 3rd wide receiver on 1st down at the 42. Fake end around. Cunningham is going deep.
Not going to happen.
And it's not going to happen because the ball was thrown 5 yards out of the end zone intended for Randy Moss. And Darrell Green, who has had his share of injuries today, helped up by Randy Moss.
You see with Darrell Green, they tried to do a double move, and Darrell Green, see now he's playing the inside. That's a different position. Darrell Green has played brilliantly today. He's gotten beat up by his own players, opposing players, the stadium, everything. Anything that could hit him today has hit him. He's saying, just get off of me. They've only completed 2 balls. They've thrown at Green, but they've only completed 2 balls. I think he's played a very, very smart game.
Robert Tate, number 83, is in at wide receiver. Moss going out on 2nd and 10. Flag is down, and stepping out of bounds is Robert Smith.
That's a good game plan. I think it's going to be a game plan that opposing corners of Randy Moss are going to take under advisement, because the way Darrell Green has played him today, I think is the right way.
Holding is the call against the Vikings. Darrell Green nicked today, and that is an understatement.
Offense, number 82. Penalty is declined. 3rd down.
The tight end Andrew Glover, so they decline the penalty. And 3rd down is coming up.
You know, Dick, if you listen to Howie Long at halftime, he mentioned Andrew Glover, a former teammate of his with the Raiders. And I think the fact that Glover is more comfortable in this offense here this year as opposed to last year, he's got a big body, and they're throwing the ball to him. That's opened up the passing game even more for those wide receivers.
3rd down and 13. David Palmer is back in. And here comes the safety blitz on Randall Cunningham. Going deep, and the pass is knocked away. And I'll tell you what, that was a lot of credit to Darrell Green, because he knew the ball was still alive and Randy Moss had a shot.
More than that, he looked back. He made a mistake. There you saw the tremendous speed of Darrell Green. I want you to watch this. He turns his head, stops. Now look at him. He got on his horse and he closed. He closed in the ball and stayed with it. That is just a tremendous effort by Darrell Green. And Moss. Moss stayed right with it.
Here is Mitch Berger punting on 4th down, and Brian Mitchell will let it bounce into the end zone. We are tell you, how impressed do you think Randy Moss is in playing against Darrell Green today?
Watch Darrell Green. It does not get better than this.
Tonight is Game 2 of the World Series from Yankee Stadium. Andy Ashby will try to even the series for the Padres against El Duque Orlando Hernandez. Yankees lead 1-0. There's the pitching matchup. Tino Martinez grand slam home run, giving the Yankees a 9-6 win in Game 1.
There's nothing like a grand salami in the World Series. I mean, that's just one of those things when you're a kid, you go, bases are loaded, 3-2 count. Tino Martinez did it last night. That was fun to watch.
42 seconds remaining in the 3rd quarter. 1st down for the Redskins on the 20. Terry Allen on a pitch going it, and Orlando Thomas grabbed him down, and a flag is down back behind the line of scrimmage.
That was a very late flag, too, I might add. I mean, the play was, heck, he was tackled, and then Dick Hantak threw that flag.
And a hold against the Redskins will nullify that superb run by Terry Allen.
Well, two guys to me who have impressed me for the Washington Redskins today. Darrell Green has played clearly just a tremendous game. And then the other one is Terry Allen.
Holding. Offense, number 82. 10-yard penalty. Repeat the down. First down.
It's Michael Westbrook outside. You're going to see him right here working on Pete Bursich. And now stop me when you see a hold, okay? Because personally, I don't see anything. Nice play by Bursich.
Made a good point. There you see 84 penalty yards by the Redskins.
Pete Bursich plays well, doesn't he?
He does. A timeout. Very active linebacker, making his first start of the year.
Here's Randy Moss and Darrell Green, and back here is Randall Cunningham. Now, he's given the cushion and a changeup, see? Nice job here. Moss is going to now try to get to the outside, try to take that away. Green stopped and looked back at the quarterback. That's a mistake. But he realized it, came back, got on his horse, used his speed, closed it, and then knocked that ball down. That's been a great matchup all day, and it's been a clinic by Darrell Green.
Who has studied films this week of Randy Moss, and you know that Darrell Green wanted to show why he was a Pro Bowler against the hotshot wide receiver, but Randy Moss also showing that he's the real thing as well.
Oh, he is. He is. The only weakness I see in him is weakness. Strength is his weakness.
Not bad. First down and 20 after the penalty. Brian Mitchell brings it out with half a minute remaining in the third quarter. Mitchell getting 14 yards on the carry. Torian Gray finally bringing him down. And considering the way third quarters have gone for the Redskins this year, this isn't a bad one. They've been outscored only 3-0. But they still trail 24-7.
They need points.
Second down and 6. And it's dropped. That's a free ball.
That's a fumble, and that's a good call. Keep running. That ball was
complete.
That ball was thrown behind, and it should have been a fumble. That should have been a lateral, not a pass.
It was a lateral, no question about it.
Watch where that quarterback is, okay? Let's establish it. He's right here. Okay, now watch. This has to go. It has to go this way. That ball was thrown behind him. That's a lateral, and that's a bad call by the official. Here's a better throw. See how he's definitely. That's not even close.
And that is the end of the third quarter with the score: the Vikings 24, the Redskins 7. Fox NFL Sunday will continue after a word from your local Fox station. Metrodome, Dick Stockton along with Matt Millen. The Vikings lead 24-7. Michael Batiste has been in on this series for Joe Patton, the left guard, who came back from injury. But now the Redskins, 3rd and 6 on their 24. And Gus Barat, flag is down, and Michael Westbrook.
One for sure. I see Albert Connell. Albert Connell went towards the line of scrimmage, so that the first flag is definitely on him. Yeah.
That's the second time we've had that kind of penalty.
He came across in motion. Well, the first one, two guys can't move. One has to be set with motion. This time, he came across in motion.
Illegal motion.
And he started towards the line of scrimmage.
Number 83, penalty is declined. 4th down.
What about lack of organization and those kinds of things that teams do, man?
That's just concentration on the player. See, I'm not a big fan of throwing it all on the coach. Watch how he comes towards the line of scrimmage. Right there. See, that's on him. To me, that's stupid. That's no concentration. You can't do that. That has no amount of coaching can put you out on the field and say, okay, now don't forget to do this. You practice that all week. You can't make those mistakes.
Matt Turk does not get off his best kick by any means, and it goes out of bounds. And the Vikings will have a good field position. Next week on Fox NFL Sunday, the Vikings will head to Motown, where Barry Sanders and the Lions try to improve their mark, plus other regional action. Coverage begins at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, right here on Fox. check your local listings. No matter what's interesting in talking with many of the Redskins, you've never been in a situation where a team started out 0-6. It really was downtrodden.
I've never really been in a situation where teams have lost, so it's kind of tough for me. But I do know this: when things go tough, that's when the tough guys pick it up. And that's when also you have to have an inner pride. And I said this earlier, I'll say it again. A coach can't do that for you. That has to come from within. What makes Darryl Green play the way he's playing today? Inside. What makes a guy like Terry Allen keep on pushing himself? It comes from inside. Geez, I sound like the... What makes our Carter's musk? Courage. But that's what you get. I mean, that stuff all has to come from within. The Vikings have it. They're playing, and they're playing from within now because it's great pride in their record and how they're going, and it'll build on that. Conversely, when you're down, that kind of builds on it too.
2nd and 12 after the 2-yard loss. Randall Cunningham completes the pass to Chris Carter. And Chris Carter inside the 30-yard line. A big game for number 80, who said his career would be extended with Randy Moss on hand now. A gain of 42 yards.
And he's been having a tough day with Darryl Powell. Again, he's sneaked a peek. Turned his head back there. To be honest with you, when you have the kind of protection that Randall Cunningham, you can see he's patting him on the back, a nice job. When you're having that kind of protection, plays like that are a lot easier to make.
Carter with 5 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. And here is Evans, the fullback, with a burst, and Evans gets inside the Redskin 20. Last week, Chris Carter caught 8 for 119 yards, so 2 straight weeks for Chris Carter going over 100 yards in passing yardage. And today, Chris Carter tied a record, 75 touchdowns, one behind the all-time leader, Bill Brown. Played for Bud Grant. The pitch is to Smith.
That was interesting.
Robert Smith inside the 10-5, touchdown Vikings.
I like that play.
19 yards for Robert Smith.
That was a pretty nifty piece of football. They faked a dive inside, and then watch, they're going to fake this inside to draw it in. That's nice. And then he flips it back outside, and then you just use your speed. A nice job by Jake Reed. Watch Reed. Perfect job of getting his hands on Chris Dishman, and that allows him to get into the end zone.
Gary Anderson, who has still not missed a place kick all year, remains perfect, and the kick is good. So Robert Smith having a big year. Everyone in purple and gold seems to be having a big year, and it's 31-7 Minnesota.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Toyota Trucks, with you for the long haul. By Wendy's Spicy Chicken Sandwich. When you're hot, you're hot. By Aetna Retirement Services. And by IBM. Are you ready for e-business?
Back here at Minneapolis on Fox Sports, the Vikings leading 31-7 over the Redskins. Mitch Berger with a kickoff again into the end zone, and the Redskins will start from the 20-yard line.
I mentioned earlier about Chris Dishman not having the same kind of year. Now, yeah, that's a nice job by Jake Reed. And Chris Dishman is trying to fight him. I used to watch Dishman just throw those guys to the side. And it just doesn't look like it's the same Chris Dishman that I remember. And I know he's fighting through it. I talked to him about it, and he knows it. He's aware of it, but something's not right.
Matt, I've been listening to you up here, and you make a good point, except that they not all made like Matt Millen was as a player. I'm not blowing smoke, but you had a certain pride. Not everyone does, which is why teams go 0-6 and struggle and continue to struggle.
There's a timeout. They didn't like something they had there. Dixon Edwards kind of ran off the field as fast as he could.
So with a 31-7 lead, they still want to call the timeout. They don't like the personnel. The only score by the Redskins came on the turnover when the Vikings had a ball on a punt off the back of their foot, giving the Redskins first and goal inside the 5. Since then, it's been all Randall Cunningham, who has thrown 2 touchdown passes, 12 on the year, yet to throw an interception. And it's been a while since Randall has thrown a pick.
It's been a while since he's had this much fun on the sideline in the middle of the fourth quarter.
First down, Redskins on the 20-yard line with 12:42 to go in the game. Albert Connell in motion. Gus Farad handing off to Terry Allen going outside, and Robert Griffith grabs hold. Well, the owner of the Minnesota Vikings, the new owner, Red McCombs, who, by the way, has yet to see his team lose either in preseason or regular season, missing his first regular season game today because of severe thunderstorms and flooding in San Antonio. They had 20 inches of rain. His plane couldn't take off, and he was going to be here along with David Robinson and his wife, Robinson, the admiral from the San Antonio Spurs.
Saw Skip Humphrey in there, was running for governor against Jesse the Body Ventura up here. Going to have a WWF free-fall match up here.
Skip Hicks is in at running back on 2nd down and 7, but Farad wants to throw, and he won't do that either.
Nice job by Clemens.
One of those first-round picks you were talking about a little while ago, gets the 5th sack of the game for the Vikings.
No time to throw. It's really what's happened to Washington all day, and you got to really credit the defensive front of the Minnesota Vikings, because right now they can sniff the blood. Excellent job. You know where that play, you know why that's so successful? John Randall. John Randall and Clemens ran a stunt. It's called a TE. The tackle goes first, you draw the guards block out, and then Clemens comes back underneath.
3rd down and 13. And Gus Farad's pass, and it's caught by Connell. Flag is down. Albert Connell gets close to the 40-yard line of the Redskins, but a penalty marker thrown on the opposite side of the field at the 40. And Dick Hantak
It's going to go against Jimmy Hitchcock, I believe. And they'll decline it. That'll be a first down.
Illegal contact. Defense number 37. Penalty is declined. First down.
You know, they ran that same stunt with Randall and Clemens again. Heck, it worked so good the first time. They ran it the second time. The difference in the play that time was, you're going to watch. Here, he comes in, draw the block, and then Clemens comes back inside. The difference is this time, Gus Farad moved to the left and bought some time.
First down, and the fake pitch to Skip Hicks, and the pass to Westbrook, and Michael Westbrook with the catch, and gets hit by Orlando Thomas, but not before the Redskins pick up 19 and get into Viking territory.
Well, they go with the play action inside. Hitchcock bites underneath. And they're sitting there in the zone. A nice job by Orlando Thomas to close on this thing. Again, the play action gave the time to throw, and then he's able to come back outside to make that throw and catch.
Westbrook only his 2nd reception of the game, and a first down on the 42 of the Vikings. Here's Farad as he overthrows his man Westbrook by a mile. And that will bring up 2nd down. You know, it was
a mile?
Something like that.
The whole mile?
I measured it.
And a guy missed him by a mile.
You know, it was a couple of years ago, Matt. The Vikings were 4-0, went to New York, lost to the Giants, and the habit of Dennis Green's teams to get off to good starts and then stumble. And he knew this would be a trap game for them because they beat the Packers, the bye week, divisional game against Detroit and Tampa Bay after this. This was the game they had to focus on.
Yeah, but this is not your father's Buick. This isn't the same old team. This is a much better Minnesota Viking team than they had 4 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
Question about
or last year.
Right? Stephen Davis underneath with a reception, short of the first down by 2.
If they have a weakness, really, you look at this defense. Defensively, their corners aren't dominating corners, and up front, they're not real big guys. And so, if you can get an offensive line to start humming on them and work on them, they'll wear those guys down. But you have to do that in lieu of the fact that their offense is going to score some points, because where they're better is their offensive line has been together, so they're stronger there. And then those receivers with Moss, Carter, and Reed really present problems and trouble.
3rd down and 2. Jim Kitts goes in motion to the right. There's a flag down, and the pass to Hicks. He'll have the first down pending the penalty call. And you're right about the Vikings. They gave up 31 points against the Rams.
Chicago had them, really.
28 against the Bears.
Yeah, Chicago had them.
They're going to bring this back.
Another thing, you're not getting set in motion.
Illegal shift.
Second time
2 men
today.
moving prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Repeat the down. 3rd down.
It's been an awful busy day by Dick Hantek and his officiating crew today. Take a look at it. This is not choreographed either. He's got all the signals down. They've had plenty of flags on the ground. In fact, too many. And my one impression of the league this year is that there have been a lot of flags. Now, if you look at the numbers, I think they're basically about the same. It just seems that we've had games that they've had tons of flags.
Well, the Redskins have bore the brunt of it with 10 for 89 today. And we'll have another one coming in. You know,
Not to be outdone, they'll get another.
This crew is also the officiating crew when the 22 penalties were called against the 49ers at Buffalo a couple of weeks ago.
Well,
Was that ugly?
Offense, number 61. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd
Michael
down.
Batiste, who went in to replace Joe Patton at left guard.
I believe in Sports Illustrated they had something about officiating crews, and I think he was leading the crews with
right.
most flags thrown. But that happens. I mean, those things are going to happen, and I think when there's Jerry Seaman, who's the head of the officiating crew right there, I think you have to call what you see, and there's not much you can do about it.
3rd down and 12, and Karat finding a receiver, Westbrook, down the sideline, incomplete.
Missed him by 2 miles. You get your 1 mile overthrow and your 2 mile overthrow.
Well, I may have exaggerated.
I didn't.
Matt Turk has come on. Only 2 catches for Westbrook today, but he has had a terrific start to his year. He's gone over 500 yards with 3 touchdown catches after 6 games. So Matt Turk will punt. David Palmer back on his 10. Turk trying to keep it inside the 20, and he comes close. And they'll mark it at about
one way of looking
30.
at it. You'd say it came close. I'd say missed it
By a mile.
By a mile or 2.
31-7 Vikings. There's Brad Johnson on the left. Hopes to come back for the Tampa Bay game on November 8th. And Randall Cunningham. And the smile can be as wide as he wants it to be. He is finished for the day after a brilliant afternoon, replaced by Jay Fielder out of Dartmouth. Played with the Philadelphia Eagles and NFL Europe's Amsterdam Admirals last year. Coached football at Hofstra out on Long Island. And getting his first taste of action this year, and the handoff to Robert Smith. And you wonder how long Robert Smith will be in there as well, because this is a back you really don't want to risk injury with, since he has been injury prone in the past.
Asking me, I say give him the hook. He doesn't need to be out there. You know, he started talking about this offense and how well Randall Cunningham played in the offensive line, and we never even got to Robert Smith, who's got 90 yards rushing. Chris Carter's had himself a big day again. I just think right now this team's playing at a high level of confidence as much as anything. Confidence makes you that much better in any sport.
Here's Chris Carter lining up, 2nd down and 5. Greg DeLong goes in motion, and Fielder swings it out, and it's batted out by Kennard Lang.
Now there's Brad Johnson getting ready for a couple weeks from now. He's just getting that wing loose, and you can see what Randall Cunningham thinks of that. He's laughing at him. Go ahead, loosen up all you want. I'm playing way too good. You'll never get your job back.
Well, that's going to be the burning question, but the feeling from Dennis Green at this point is that when he's ready, Brad Johnson will come back. But it'll make for interesting hot stove talk.
Let me tell you something. It makes for a good decision for a coach to have. Do I go with the guy who's playing great, or do I go with the guy who's playing great?
Flip a coin. 3rd down and 5. Fiedler gets out of trouble, and his pass is caught by Randy Moss, and it's a 1st down for the Vikings. So when things are going right, they go right every way in a gain of 10.
Well, he buys some time with his feet. They come with the blitz, and he comes clean. Sean Barber misses the tackle. Fiedler does a nice job of stepping up and then finding Moss inside. A good job by Moss of using his body, because the coverage was right there. This was well thrown.
1st down for the Vikings on their 39-yard line. 7:45 to go in the game. Hand off to Robert Smith, and a loss.
If you heard our sounds down there from the Fox mics, you heard them saying, "Hey, here it comes right here." And there's somebody in there reading their keys pretty well. And I think it was Derek Smith, because he saw the fullback sit right there and he came up and hit it pretty quick.
Derek Smith in his second year started as a rookie last season, an outside linebacker. Linebacking position, one of the more solid areas on the Redskins defensive team. 2nd and 10 on the 39. Up the middle, Leroy Horde, and he dragged Marcus Patton for about 3 yards before he was tackled at the 44-yard line, a gain of 6 yards.
You know, Dick, we've been talking about that offensive line, and I mentioned to you about Corey Stringer. And he's dropped about 40 to 50 pounds. And where you can really see the difference in Corey Stringer's game is that it used to be when they ran away from his side, he couldn't get the cutoff for the linebacker. Now he can get there. And also, he's playing better through 4 quarters. He used to get tired, and now he's not getting as tired as he had been.
Well, there's a lot of pressure now. Here's Fiedler's pass, and it's caught. And Jake Reed, who's been kind of the forgotten man with Carter, the standby, and Randy Moss. That's the first catch of the game for Jake Reed, but it's sufficient for a Viking first down.
Jake Reed is kind of in between Randy Moss and Chris Carter. Randy Moss you'd characterize as speed, and Chris Carter you'd characterize as power and playing with his eyes. Jake Reed is a combination of both. He's a big, strong guy who has good enough speed to beat you deep.
First down for the Vikings on the 36 of Washington. Bobble on the exchange, and Robert Smith is tackled. By the way, Randy Moss, you know, when he met you, you gave the stamp of approval before the game. Here's Randy Moss on Matt Millen's assessment of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, Matt, cool. I met him the other day. He cool. We had a nice conversation. It went well. But I think he liked the Vikings. He might not have liked them at the beginning of the season, but he liked them now. But there's a lot of people like that. You know.
Sounds like we're on the bandwagon now, huh?
Well, he knows when somebody likes what they see.
Well, and when you were saying you like him, I mean, you got the attention of Randy Moss as Robert Smith gets a couple of yards.
To be honest with you, I didn't know anything about Randy Moss. I heard all the things coming out of college about him and his abilities and watching him. But, you know, when I did see one thing was in a playoff game and he was matched up a guy who he was much better than. This is a different league. What he does, and I studied him. I took 3 games and studied him pretty good. He's got great speed. He has great concentration. He has the ability to make a play when the ball's hanging in the air. He switches his gears very well. He's very polished for a young receiver. He's not a real strong guy, but he's going to improve in his strength, and that will make him a complete receiver.
Incomplete on 3rd and 2. We're talking about a receiver who started out at Notre Dame, and then Lou Holtz shifted him over to Florida State, said to Bobby Bowden, you ought to take a look at this guy. So you knew he was a decent guy, and then, of course, that didn't work out. He left Florida State, went to Marshall, caught 55 touchdown passes in 2 years at Marshall in West Virginia. And in talking with Chris Carter yesterday, I said, what about Randy Moss staying out of trouble? I know you've taken him under his wing. He says now he knows if he gets into trouble, he knows he's getting into trouble.
I don't think they're trying for the field goal.
47-yard and his field goal is good as Gary Anderson remains perfect on the year. Second field goal of the game, and it's 34-7. Under 4 minutes remaining in the game, and the Vikings leading the Redskins 34-7. Vikings headed for their 6th win without a loss, and the Redskins the other way will be 0-7 after this one.
Holy smokes, look at that. One of our cameramen, who apparently is a Washington Redskins fan,
Apparently.
that's Covey.
Mitch Berger kicking off again, and virtually all of his kickoffs have been for touchbacks today.
Well, we talked about the offensive line. You can see what they've got done today. No sacks, very little pressure. They've opened holes consistently. They've given lots of time. Really, they've done everything. I mean, they've played as sound a game as an offensive line could play. We talked about Christie and Dixon and Stringer. We didn't even talk about the better 2 players of that offensive line, Todd Stussy and also Randall McDaniel. Those are 2 Pro Bowl players.
Redskins on the 20-yard line with Skip Hicks, the running back, gets the pitch from Gus Barat, and Hicks brings it out to the 24-yard line. Pete Bursich. Well, we took a look at the Viking #1 draft picks, all of whom have become starters in the 90s, and now let's take a look at the Redskins in the 90s, their #1 picks, and it's a different story, Matt.
Yeah, and I think this is really the difference. You can see Bobby Wilson, Howard, Carter, Schuler, all those guys, you're not here or not playing. And you look, Michael Westbrook's a player, obviously. Kennard Lang is starting, but he's got a ways to go. I think that's really the difference. You have to draft well. In today's football, if you don't draft well, you're not going to win. You've got to have good people, and you have to grow them from within. Because in free agency, Dick, the guys who are available are just going to be guys. To be honest with you, if you have a great player, you're not going to be able to get them. Teams are going to tie them up. And if you think you can go out and get yourself a great one, you're wrong. I don't care, even a franchise player, they're not going to let a guy like that go.
Only to top it off. If you need one man to top off to a chance to win a championship, that's where you get a free agent. Otherwise, it's the draft. 3rd down and 6 on the 24. Gus Barat going up top. Incomplete, and it's 4th down.
I think that 45-yard line was wide open, and he hit it perfectly.
Westbrook, of course, the #1 pick, who is starting now, and it looks like after a couple of years of question mark. Of course, the mental mistakes evident early in the year for Westbrook, but he is emerging, it appears, in a losing year as a receiver to be reckoned with. It's 4th down, and Matt Turk will punt, and back deep will be David Palmer. And a bobble by Turk, and the Vikings are going to get it inside the 15-yard line, a loose ball. And now it looks like a scrum. And it's finally brought dead at the 11-yard line, and a comedy of errors for the Burgundy and Gold.
You know, there's something appropriate about this. First we say that their best player is their kicker, and then he drops the ball. And that's as pathetic as it gets.
Here it is again.
You don't have to say anything. That's kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, I mean, we can call the play-by-play. Sonny Jurgensen, the quarterback.
Sonny got his bag. He's ready to go home. He wants nothing to do with it. I'm getting out of here, he's going.
He says, where's my plane ticket? 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line for the Vikings. Here's Leroy Horde powering his way inside the 10-yard line. Sonny's looking for his plane ticket because he's seen this before. As he's packing
everything. He wants nothing to do with it.
He has seen enough.
There's Frank Herzog and Sam Huff,
the other Hall of Famer.
Sam looks interested, huh? There's some good football being played, folks. Yes, sir. Look at it, shaking his head.
Yeah,
He's got nothing left. They emptied their bucket. In fact, they emptied it so much, Sonny started packing up for the next week.
2nd down and 7 at the 9-yard line with 2:15 to go. The Vikings in a romp here. And 34 unanswered points by Minnesota as Ford gets to the 5-yard line. We'll get to the 2-minute warning. You wonder how much more the columnists of the Washington Post, Tony Kornheiser and Michael Wilbon, can write about this team. But that's what they got to do. 2-minute warning here at the Metrodome. We'll be back in a moment.
Fox NFL Sunday is brought to you by Gateway. Let's talk about your Gateway.
The Bears. Most of you will see that game from Soldier Field. Others will see the Rams and the Dolphins or Eagles and Chargers. The second half of our NFL on Fox doubleheader. 3rd down and 3. Robert Smith, who is 1 yard away from 100 yards in the game, trying to get it here, and he will. And if he gets the touchdown, he does. Touchdown for Robert Smith, his second. And now they say he might have gone out of bounds at the 1 yard line.
I don't see a sign there.
One official signaled a touchdown, and the other one
I think that's
no.
wrong, incidentally. I don't think you put Robert Smith in here at the end of the game to get 100 yards or try to get him an extra. Just get him out of there. That's a great effort by Smith, incidentally. Remember, it's not where the body is.
And it's not the pylon either.
It's where the ball is. And that pylon goes straight up and down. I think that's a touchdown. They're going to say no. They said at the 1 yard line unless he stepped out. Let's look at his feet. If his feet went out.
Which they did. I think they did.
That's a tough call.
1st and goal at the 1. Robert Smith is out of the game. He got his 100 yards. Ford and Charles Evans. And it's Leroy Horde with his second touchdown of the game to put the exclamation mark on this one with 1 minute and 51 seconds remaining. Well, Dennis Green is going to win his 6th consecutive game as head coach. Said going in, Norv Turner just wanted to win his first, but for Dennis Green, he will tie his career head coaching record, which was established last year with 6 straight wins. Vikings were 8-2 as Gary Anderson clicks with the extra point, and it's 41-7 now in favor of the Vikings. You want to talk at opposite ends of the poll. The Minnesota Vikings will be 6-0, best start in 23 years, and the Redskins 0-7, their worst start in 37 years, and miles apart. And when the season was starting, Matt, people were saying the Redskins have a shot to win the NFC East. We don't know if the Vikings are going to make the playoffs and how things have changed.
Who are those people?
They're out there.
Well, I'm sure they are, and because what you saw was some potential, and you were hoping that, I think, Gus Stroud was going to have himself a good year. They improved themselves defensively. Dennis Green would lose 65 pounds and now look like Chef Pell over there.
Right.
But the thing with the Minnesota Vikings is that they had been inconsistent and they had faded. But this, like I said earlier, this is a better team now than they've had here. This is as good a team as they've had. Are they good enough to win the Super Bowl? Yes, absolutely. Why? Because they can score. They score and they're giving their defense points at their back. And they have some deficiencies defensively, but with points at your back, you're a different defense. And you can play a little more loose and take some chances.
And when you play them, you say, who do we stop when you have to worry about that offense? Here is Mitch Berger's kick, and again in the end zone. And the Redskins will get out to the 20-yard line. So after the bye week, the victory over the winless Redskins, but now 2 tough road games against the Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then a couple of easier games, so to speak, if there's such a thing, and then the return engagement at home against Green Bay and a game at Dallas. But I'd have to say that the Minnesota Vikings in the past have stumbled in a game like this, and today they were decisive in their victory.
They're marching. They're playing with great confidence.
Skip Hicks is the running back with 1 minute and 50 seconds to go and a gain of 2 yards. And you wonder when the first victory will come for the Redskins, who fortunately will not lose next week. They will be off on the bye week, and then we'll play the Giants at home. There are winnable games in that schedule, but you have to play well to win a game.
Yeah, you can look at that schedule and make a case for them. However, if you're the Giants, the Cardinals, the Eagles, and the Raiders, you're looking at them going, oh, geez, this is good. We got the Redskins coming up. So you have to think that they're looking at the Skins as a victory. It's not going to be easy for them. They're going to get it. They'll get a win. They're going to they're going to get some wins.
Here's Hicks, and he gets a couple. Because this is a better team than the way they play, but you're always waiting each week for them to play better, and they simply don't.
Well, they've been beating themselves. And I think they overestimated what they had. You know, they went out and they got some players they thought would make them better, and really they're just playing average. And then they expected their quarterback to take the step to where he was a few years ago, and that never happened. And then their offensive line just kind of never materialized.
It just didn't happen for them.
I think in today's football, if you don't have a good offensive line coach, you've got problems.
Well, the Redskins will go down for the first time at the Metrodome as Skip Hicks goes off the right side. Today's game is being produced by Richard Zients and directed by Artie Kempner. The associate director is Greg Scopatoni. The broadcast associates are Clark Pierce and Adrian Hasselmeyer. And the technical producer, Dean Walker. Pre-game show produced by Scott Ackerson and directed by Bob Levy. The senior producer is Bill Brown, and the executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill. And the Minnesota Vikings have gone 6-0, undefeated, the only undefeated team still in the NFC, as they defeat the Washington Redskins by the resounding margin of 41-7. And it was a day in which the Redskins scored the first touchdown, taking advantage of a turnover, and then 41 unanswered points for the Minnesota Vikings, who remain undefeated.
What a great game, though, by Darrell Green.
Yes, a valiant game.
Yes,
for the defender,
very,
a warrior.
Very impressive, and you'd expect nothing else from him.
So for Matt Millen, Dick Stockton saying so long from the Metrodome. Capacity crowd watching the Vikings crush the Washington Redskins. That's the story here, and right now we're going to send you to our Los Angeles studios and James Brown. JB?
All right, Dick, thank you very much. Coming up after football tonight, Game 2 of the World Series. Orlando Hernandez, El Duque on the mound for the Yankees in Game 2 against Andy Ashby and the Padres. 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, right here on Fox, as we welcome you back to Los Angeles Full House here with Chris, Howie, Terry. Yours truly, JB. Redskins fall to 0-7 now. Vikings impressively 41-7. Randall Cunningham, boy, he cannot go back to the bench, I think. Giants break out of the offensive slump. Last ranked team offensively in the league. 34-7 over the Cardinals today. Falcons improve to 4-1, make it'll be 5-1 if they hold on with this 31-23 lead over the Saints. Buccaneers hold on for a 3-point victory. John Casey missed a 47-yard field goal in the closing moments for Carolina. Jaguars lose to the Bills. Doug Flutie knocks off the undefeated Jaguars with that 1-point victory today. Steelers hold on for a 10-point victory over the Ravens, and the Tennessee Oilers, guided by Steve McNair, 30 points better than the Bengals. Minnesota, Chris, I know we've talked about that wide receiving core. Howie's talked about the O-line. They've got it pretty much all together.
And you know, JB, I don't even think